Hello, welcome. Friday. Good to see all of you. Good to see you, Alan. Welcome to episode number 120 of Heavy Metallurgy. I'm your co-host, Marty. And over there is that lovely devil sitting next to me, that lovely sick little monkey that we know as Professor Steele. How are you today, sir?
Doing pretty good, Marty. Doing all right. It's been, kind of a crazy week, busy week, school stuff, getting back into full swing and all that. But hey, it's Friday night, so we'll forget about all that stuff and hang out and talk to folks about interesting metal stuff. So hello to everybody in the chat who's filtering in. Hey, Aaron, I was just watching your latest video right before we hopped online. Really liked your picks for that one, Aaron. But yeah, hello to everyone else too. I think we've got an interesting show. Some folks are already reacting to the topic in the chat. So yeah, this is maybe one that's going to hit home for a lot of folks.
I just want to say we have links in the description for Heavy Metallurgy merch. If you've ordered some in the last week or so, they were both sizes that I was out of, and I have to print them this weekend. So they'll be shipping next week. And also everybody that came by Brendan Recordings and supported our last 3 releases of the year. Thank you for doing so. It's been a pretty amazing turnout. Stuff still available. Come in your clear before there. But anyway, without further ado, we got a gentleman returning. I was on his Comfort Zone show here a couple weeks ago. Super awesome guy. He's been on the show before a couple times, and let's just bring him back. Mike, Metal Mickey, good to see you. Welcome back.
You must have been talking about somebody else there, were you? Super awesome guy. I was just looking back there.
Talking about the mouse in your pocket. Yeah.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me on.
Good to have you back.
Thanks for coming with such a short notice. The weeks get away from us both, and it's good when
no problem.
We have a nice core of people that we can reach out to in a moment's notice. And even though you're staying up all night to do this, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Hello to everybody out there who's watching. I can't see any figures yet, but I'm sure there's people tuned in already.
45 people so far. Everybody, hello. Hope you're all doing well. Good to see everyone. Mike, what's been going on over at your channel? I know you and I just did an episode of Comfort Zones here a couple weeks ago. What else has been going? What are your plans moving up down the road?
Actually buying of things and making the sort of regular content that somebody in my position does as slowed down a bit, if I'm being honest. And I've been relying on the live streams once a month just to keep the channel ticking over. And I've been toying with the idea, as maybe as ridiculous as this is going to sound when I sort of blurt it out. I was thinking about the possibility of maybe offering people counselling. Now, I've got no counselling skills when it comes to education and accreditations and things like that. But I think I'm a good listener, and if somebody wants to talk and they want to talk to a complete stranger because they find it easier to talk to a complete stranger, maybe sometimes, even if you don't let on to somebody, I feel like the world it feels a bit isolated now. It's as if we're all cocooned a little bit. And the art of conversation's lost. And it's not always cool as a bloke to sort of say, I'm feeling a bit depressed, I'm feeling a bit this, that, or the other. And I actually want to offer that if anyone wants to take me up on it and just wants private conversations and things like that. I'm not sure how I would go about it. But that is something that's sort of rattling around my head that I may end up going into. I know that sounds bizarre, especially as I've got a bit of a reputation of being a gobby prick and things like that. But honestly, I am used to hugging a stranger and saying, I totally get you, and crying along with them. I'm not averse to doing shit like that.
And this is why you're the perfect person for tonight's discussion. Because me and Alan might be reaching out later, or our wives might be reaching out for counsel later. How late are you going to be up today? Well, that sounds like that's very kind of you to put out there in the world for sure, because some people just want to be heard. They don't necessarily need somebody with the credentials, just someone that actually will sit and listen, be a co-conspirator,
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that in mind, we got a hold of Mike midweek, asked him if he'd be ready and willing for Friday and if he had any ideas. We were going to do a year. That would have been quick and easy for all of us, but you actually had another idea. What were your thoughts on what we're talking about tonight?
Yeah, well, obviously, Alan put out a video recently about being a completist or not being a completist with the majority of bands in his case. And I watched that with obviously a great deal of interest because Alan's a fantastic talker. If he'd have been my teacher, I might not be a janitor today, but never mind. And I watched that and I was thinking, I can't really chip in on that, but can I expand on it a little bit in a different direction? So I started putting a few notes together and putting something down with a view to putting a video up on my own channel with regards to that topic. And then very, very quickly, I thought probably going to be biting off more than I can chew with this topic. And I thought, if those guys ever ask me on again, I think their input will be absolutely invaluable in a topic like this. So when you got in touch with me, although the idea and the whole thing was very, very early on in its, in my thinking and its development, I thought, oh, you know what? Let's just try and go with it anyway. You lot's got a lot of experience in talking and stuff like that, even if I'm not great at it. I'm sure the three of us can concoct something for tonight's viewing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think as we were talking right before we went on the air, several different channels have had videos about collecting, completism, buying too many records, or feeling like they don't have time to explore discographies of new bands because they're worried they're going to get sucked in and then have to buy everything by some other band. So yeah, I think it's something that a lot of folks have had on their mind, and so yeah, I think it was a really good time to bring up this topic. I'm glad you did.
I've got a lot of I kind of took it as a little bit of buyer's remorse, and in some of these piles I have here, some I don't regret, but there's some definite remorse in some of these purchases. So I mean, you might not think about those things as much when you're young, but as you get older and you start having more bills and more things going on, and I don't know, that old specter creeps up on me once in a while. Should I be buying all this crap? I mean, I just do it because it's what I've always done. But older you get, I mean, sometimes I'll say I'm done and I'll quit for a while, and then when I get back, it's awful. It's like an addict that falls off the wagon. You have to have it all, It's like, and I'm still of the school where I don't do a lot of homework. I like to, if there's a band I kind of like, I'll buy their entire collection, or I like buying records I haven't heard because I want that initial reaction, which isn't financially smart. How do you guys approach it?
I can understand that. I can understand the old school, clinging on to a bit of the old school sort of way that we used to do that. And I'm not averse to that either. But I could actually afford to blind buy anything that I'm interested in, because I quite narrow when it comes to modern music. I'm very much stuck in the past, and I've made some notes that I can explain reasons why I buy a lot of the things I do buy. But when it comes to brand new music, there's just certain things that are killing it off for me. So I don't have the the urge to keep up with the latest releases that I know a lot of people are. I'm very much in a minority with my thinking, but chief of which is the production just absolutely destroys my enjoyment of new music for the most part. Not for everything. I mean, I'm sat with a Hellripper t-shirt on for a start, so that would be flying in the face of that statement. But modern production is a huge stumbling block for me on new material. So I don't feel the pressure that other people would to buy that stuff.
Yeah. What about you, Alan?
Yeah, and folks have touched on this in the chat already, that it affects a lot of folks. If you're going to collect anything for some length of time, this is going to happen to you. You're going to end up with some items that later on you're kind of like, that you feel bad about, for one reason or another. And there's some different reasons we'll talk about, I'm sure, that this kind of thing can happen. But it's unavoidable, and like we'll probably touch on too. On the sort of opposite end, if you're in it long enough, you'll also find some great buys. You'll discover an album or whatever collectible it is you're dealing with that you absolutely love, and you get it for for next to nothing. You knew nothing about it, and it turns out to become a favorite thing, or like one of your rarest items. So it works both ways. Y'all are right about the blind buy thing. That in the past was almost a necessity if you were going to hear a lot of our type of music. Pre-YouTube, before stuff was readily spread across the internet, when you went to a record store or a record show and you saw something you didn't know, there was no way to pull it up on your phone and see what it sounded like. You either took a chance and bought it, or you left it sitting there and didn't find out, and you might not find it again. So yeah, especially for folks in our age bracket, I think we're more prone to do that stuff because that's what we had to do for a very long time. It's really only in the past 10 to 15 years that it's been very easy to find a wide range of stuff online where you can preview it without buying it, or where you can just stream it or watch it on, whatever platform, or download it from some, different site. For even for me still now, there's still that default to like, I guess I'll have to buy it if I want to hear. It's like, no, dummy, I don't. I can just put it on YouTube and hear what it sounds like if I want. I don't have to physically own it. But my default mechanism is still that, I got to pick that up because that's what I had to do for decades. And yeah, like I said, sometimes that will work out really well. We'll talk about some examples of that as we go through tonight. But sometimes it will not work out well, and it can lead you, like you said, Marty, to have that kind of buyer's remorse sensation after the fact. And there's a lot of different reasons an album might end up triggering that kind of thing, where you suddenly feel like, oh, what the hell have I done? And it's a bad feeling. But it's happened to all of us. So that's kind of my background take on it. It's going to happen to everyone. You can't avoid it. If you're going to seriously collect anything for any length of time, you cannot avoid it as much as you want to.
No. And I have to add to the we've maybe talked about this last time we had the collector roundtable thing. I've really in the last 5 years or so tried to isolate what drives this collection, what my need for collecting. It's a nostalgia thing. Music, I was very invested in it as a kid. And just the thrill of the hunt is part of it. The older I've gotten, it was cool having friends come over for the first time. They're like, wow, look at all these records and CDs. And it was like, yeah, cool. I did something. I made something cool. But, you'd have the same core amount of friends, and that's still not much of a thrill anymore. And I'm like, okay, I just don't know what I'm not a hunter or a fisher. I'm into cars. I'm not into sports or any of that crap. Nothing. This is what I do. I do this online. I work and I fill my hours procuring music because it's something I can do when it's quiet and flip through, and it's fun searching for stuff. or going record shopping. But yeah, it starts to, the older you get, you start to have that creeping. There's going to have to be an end to it sometime. My kid likes a very small fraction of metal at this point. He's starting to grow or branch out, but he's gonna have a hell of a mess to deal with when I'm dead. A hell of a mess. And I guess it won't matter so much while I'll be gone, but I don't know. I enjoy it, and I really do enjoy like Spotify and Bandcamp and streaming services. I use them a lot, especially for heavy metallurgy. It's a perfect way to do homework for these episodes we do, but I try to tell myself, well, how would I feel if this is all I did was just listen to, just was fine with digital? It doesn't feel right. It feels gross to me. I like it as a tool. I like it as a convenience, but at the end of the day, I still want the CD or the record. It's weird. It's something I don't know if it's just because, can't teach an old dog new tricks type of thing. I don't know what it is, but habits, addiction, that dopamine hit of seeing that you got a package sitting out on the front steps, like, woo, what is it? I can't remember what I ordered. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that extra. It runs deep, and I think in all of us.
Yeah, those are good points. And Neanderthal brings up a good point here too. For a lot of us, we collected other stuff as kids before we ever got into music or metal stuff, whether it was Star Wars figures or Garbage Pail Kid cards or Hot Wheels,
comics.
A lot of people kind of comic books, a huge one. A lot of people kind of go from hobby to hobby to hobby, collecting different things as they grow up, and then some of us ended up in the music realm for sure. But and what you said about the package thing is a thing also. Again, these days it's so easy to order anything, and everything arrives very quickly, or 95% of the time. But once again, those of us that grew up more pre-Amazon and pre-YouTube and pre-eBay, ordering a package was this big epic thing. That it's always like when you ordered one of the toys out of the back of a comic book or one of the off the back of a Star Wars package, it's like 4 to 6 weeks for processing. And you had to save up all these little UPC symbols and mail them in, and it might be months before you got it. So having those kind of package, we were kind of programmed as kids that when something showed up in the mail, that's like Christmas. That you have waited for this thing, you have dreamt about this thing, and as such, it was a big deal when something arrived on the doorstep for you. And it kind of carries over to what you said, Marty, with the records. It may be faster and more frequent now, but I think there's a little bit of that nostalgia buzz that pushes that button in the back of the brain that it makes you feel like you're 12 years old and Kenner finally got off their butts and sent you the Boba Fett action figure that you mailed away for 2.5 months ago. And,
but it doesn't have the missile that comes out like it was supposed to because some dummy choked on it. Dummy.
Yep. But I think there is definitely something to that that connection of still wanting the physical thing, because we're, and especially for the US now, Mike, I don't know, you can maybe talk better to this, like in the UK. America is very consumer driven. Our generation was very much taught, you go out and you buy stuff, you prop that economy up, and so
got to have 9 or 10 guitars. I can't have just 2. Got to have 10. I got
we were the generation that were brought up at shopping malls. You went to the mall and you spent whatever money you had on stuff and things. For sure.
I think the UK is definitely. We tend to trail behind America in everything, but we're always trying to catch up. So whether or not it's everyone being really super fat or spending a lot of stuff or whatever, we'll get there in the end. We are trying.
Oh, the fat's easy. You're just not working at it hard enough.
But that, we always say in our country that whatever extreme sort of things, moves are made in life. Oh well, obviously that's going to happen in America. That's kind of how the UK sees America. If it's going to be extreme and it's going to happen, it's going to be there. Yeah. So, but but we are right behind, trying our best to be as dysfunctional.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yep. Well, why don't we start by showing off some stuff? And Mike, we'll let you kind of be the ringleader here. And I know you've got a bunch of notes and all sorts of things you want to touch on. And
yeah, well, I thought I would start off with my earliest memory of buyer's remorse. And this album I'm going to show, probably you would never expect, your viewers will never expect to see this particular album on this channel, but it's only one little segment. We'll move on. So my earliest memory was from 1987. Now, in 1987, at the beginning of 87, up until that point, I just had about 4 or 5 dubbed cassettes of Europe's The Final Countdown, Slippery When Wet, Look What the Cat Dragged In by Poison, and Cinderella's Night songs. That was my entry point on hearing The Final Countdown and being like blown away, and Living on a Prayer and being blown away. I managed to get hold of some friends who had these albums and they dubbed them on a cassette for me. And then that year I got this really horrible Amstrad MIDI system for 99 quid, which was just, not worth even opening. It sounded horrific. And but of course, and I also had some birthday money and stuff like that. And I was itching to get to the record shop and actually buy something that I could call my own. And now I haven't got the record anymore, but I've got a cassette copy of it. And because at that point, all I had was those dubbed cassettes and a chart hits record that my mother and father had bought me to go with the stereo. So the nearest thing to metal that I had on vinyl at the time was the inclusion of Status Quo's In the Army Now off this chart hits album. So anyways, I goes into the record shop and this album, where we are, this album was just brand new, and it's shy excess all areas that a UK sort of AOR type of light rock band that I've now found out. But you see the guy, you can't really see the detail, but you can see the guy at the front there, the singer. He's got white sort of spiky long hair and stuff like that. And I seen that, and I was, believe it or not, in 1987, I was drawn to that front cover and that guy's hair. I'm thinking, oh, look at that. Look at that guy's hair.
I'm trying to picture you right now with that hair. That'd be pretty awesome, actually.
I mean, even the brown and cream logo didn't put me off. It's brown and cream and they're called Shy. I mean, how much more of a clue did I need? But somehow luck was on their side, and I ended up walking out of that record shop with that album that day. And I come home, and the record shop was about 15 mile away. So I came home, put the needle on it, and I was just really disappointed. I mean, the albums that I've just highlighted that I entered this whole world listening to, they're not heavy albums. We know that, but this was even lighter than all them. It was less than all them, and it just, and quality-wise, songwriting, everything about it was just a lower tier than all them. And it just felt so early in my whole, I don't know, career, for want of a better word, to take such a knock with my first foray into buying my own metal. I mean, and then I end up with that. That was like a sucker punch.
The band name wasn't an indicator. I don't know what to tell you, man. I just don't know what to tell you.
And I came home, I dropped the needle, and not only, it wasn't so much that I'd spent the money as well, because I knew I would probably be able to convince my mother to go back in the shop and say, oh, I'm really sorry we bought this, but he's already got it. Can I have something different? I knew I'd probably be able to coax her into saying that, but it was too far away. She just, no, forget it. We're not going back there again. So I was stuck with that. I'd done the remainder of my Christmas money on that Shy LP, and then the problem was back then, you tell one of your friends, "Oh, I've just bought this LP and it's a piece of shit." They're not jumping up to, "Oh, well, I'll buy that from you," you know.
I'll trade this for you.
They want their own experience of going to the record shop, buying their own albums. So you were absolutely stuck with every Duff purchase back then. And that was my first one.
The thing that really shocks me is that you still own it.
Well, I ended up warming to about 2 or 3 songs, and then of course I picked it up, you know, in the last 5 years for about £1, and just for the whole 2 or 3 songs and the nostalgia thing. And I thought, you never know, I might be talking about an embarrassing situation on a live stream one day, and I'll be able to present that.
Right. Okay. Got us started off with a good one for sure. Alan, how about you?
All right. I'll start with a very, very early one too. One reason I think we sometimes end up with buyer's remorse is that we buy too much stuff at once. You know, we just end up with a big pile of stuff. We've all done it, or you walk out of the store with, more records than you can hold, and it feels great because you found all this cool stuff. But then it's going to take you forever to play all of those, and much longer to actually try to absorb them. And in a lot of cases, you don't. You either just kind of rapidly play them to get through the stack, or some of them you never really get around to. You never give them enough attention. So you never feel like, it'll be like, 2 years later, and you're like, oh, yeah, I never really did play that much and I'm not really familiar with it. And that can give you that sensation of like, why did I buy it then? Why did I buy so many records at once? I know that's not a great idea. I can't sit and play 16 albums today, but I bought them. What do? I very distinctly remember the first time this happened to me. I was still in high school, had been getting metal stuff for a few years at that point. And we were on a marching band field trip. You usually stopped at like a shopping mall so everybody could run in, eat, piss and all that kind of stuff. And that was a big deal for us because since, my high school was way out in the country, they were, going to a shopping mall. I mean, I remember the first time we took kids to a shopping mall, like in 3rd grade, you had kids stopping and staring in amazement at the escalator. Just like, holy shit, these things are real. They had only seen them on TV before. They couldn't wrap their head around how it worked, that they were actually standing in front of an escalator. That's how far out in the country we were. So going to a mall, in high school, once again, like we talked about before, we're being it's the 80s. You consume all kinds of stuff. There's stores all over the mall to buy at. And of course, we all would hit the record stores. I ended up buying 2 cassettes that day. And that weekend, I think this was maybe a Saturday. And then on Sunday, ended up going to a record show with my dad and bought another record. And it was like 3 records on one weekend. I'd never gotten that close together before. And to this day, I feel like I don't know one of those albums all that well. The records I ended up getting that weekend, one of them was Annihilator's Never Never Land, because other kids in the band had Annihilator. We'd heard it, played it in the back of the bus. It was really cool. I wanted a copy. I got the first LA Guns album. I don't remember why I got that, but it looked cool. It, sounded interesting. I got that one. But then the third one, the straw that kind of, it's not wrong analogy. The one that kind of overflowed the bucket, and it was number 3. It was this: Suicidal Tendencies. How Can I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Even Smile Today? I didn't know anything about this band. At the time, I'd probably heard the song Institutionalized, and that was it. But one of the other kids that was in the record store with me was, just going ape shit that they had some Suicidal Tendencies, tapes. He's just like, oh man, this band's awesome, and he was getting the Feel Like Shit Deja Vu one. And he's like, dude, you got to get one of these too. And, being, easily impressionable little kid. And, he had good taste in music. So I was like, okay, sure, if you're getting that one, I'll get this one. That way we can obviously, tape them for each other and hear more stuff. But it took, ages before I really played this enough, to get a feel for it. It's, of course, not the best album in the world. There's several songs on it I like. It's not horrible. I don't hate it. But it was that first instance where, it came come Monday morning. I'm back in school. And, I've just got this LA Guns record and this Annihilator tape and this, Suicidal Tendencies tape. And I, the LA Guns was on vinyl, so I could only play that when I was at the house, trying to play both these new tapes at the same time. It took a long time to process all of them. In a way, to be honest, I feel like I've never caught up from that one weekend in November in the early 90s when I bought 3 albums in that weekend, and stuff just kind of kept trickling in. And ever since then, I've been slightly in catch-up mode. And sometimes, I just don't get to play things enough. So it wasn't a case of like, oh, I'm sad I spent my money on this. Oh, this album stinks. I'm sad I spent my money on this. It was more just the case of, geez, that wasn't a good time to buy something else. I should have just bought the Annihilator tape. Next day got the LA Guns and kept it a little more under control, but I didn't. And so, it took a very long time for me to ever really, give that Suicidal Tendencies album enough time. So I think that's one reason that, we can kind of feel weird about purchases. We are prone sometimes to buying way too much in a short time span, and that can kind of weigh on you a bit.
It's a very long album, that Suicidal album as well.
It is. That's a very good point, Mike. It is a long album. It's not that it's bad, but it goes on for a while. You can't play that one rapidly and get through it. So that did not help matters either. Yep, very good observation.
And going through, picking out stuff for tonight, my collection isn't humongous. I mean, I have a lot of CDs. I have a decent amount of records, but I have friends that just have ridiculous collections. I mean, people online we see all the time sitting in front of a freaking, like, Roger from Norway or Ken's Death Metal Crypt. They're in a museum and it's awesome. I mean, they're like, whoa, I wish I had that many records. But I was lamenting tonight, picking stuff out. I'm like, what CD is this? I pull out, look at it, I'm like, I don't even remember buying this. And I'm just thinking all the crap that I continue to buy, and I got all this stuff. It's like a wealth of stuff that some of it I know really well, and others I just don't have a clue on.
Yep.
And Alex, thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to say, Mike, appreciate that. I saw it flashed over there in chat while I was talking, but I didn't see who it was. So I wanted to back up and make sure we said thank you very much for that.
I thanked him in the chat, but I was going to, after I got done rambling, I was going to thank you, Alex. You rule, sir. So yeah, like when we were younger, like with that Shy tape, you end up liking a couple songs on that thing. And only for the probable reason, because you bought maybe 2 tapes a month, if you're lucky. Even if you bought a piece of crap, you're going to sit and listen to it because I bought it. I got to listen to it. And that's turned me around on a lot of things, just spending time with it. Anyway, okay, I'm up. I'm going right for regret. Buyer's remorse, kicking myself for buying this. And it's kind of the perfect storm of things. It's a band that I've liked for a long time and tend to collect. Used to. They're trying to really hard for the last 10 years to throw me off their scent for sure. Kind of a novelty type of thing. And plus I had to hunt around to get a good price for it. So it was like the perfect storm. I was going to buy this thing. And once I found a price that I was happy with, well, anyway, it is this Dark Throne Black Death and Beyond set. This thing it's dumb. It just the best thing about this thing is there's a book in it, and the book has got like a pretty candid history of the band. All of it was I don't remember if the band wrote it themselves or there was somebody that interviewed them. I don't remember, but the book was quite good. Came with a patch and 3 records. The records are Black, Death, and Beyond. Death is obviously their early years. Black is obviously their black metal years. And Beyond is obviously the crusty punk years. And these are songs handpicked by the band. It's basically 3 records of a compilation made by the band. There's no exclusive tracks on here. There's nothing rare on here. it's just dumb. It's dumb. It's again, I probably have the patch on a jacket. I enjoyed the book. I forced myself to listen to each of these records. And honestly, there's some good songs on here. But the track list and the comps they made really aren't so amazing that you can't not listen to. I don't know. This was just a waste of money. They could have released this book as a hardcover. There's a lot of cool pictures in it. But I had to have the damn thing because at the time I was clinging on to my love for Dark Throne. They have, like I said, they've been beating that love out of me the last 3 records. I just can't take their mundane songwriting anymore. I just can't do it. But yeah, one that I should the book. This selection. Will I ever listen to it again? Probably not. And
oh, we may have lost Marty there for a minute. He's had a few internet glitches today, so he will probably unstick in just a moment. But in the meantime, I think he's. It sounds like he's kind of got the Dark Throne wrapped up as it is.
a month.
Almost had him back.
All right, sorry. Like I said,
no, it's okay.
Anyway.
I was explaining to folks, but yeah, that
all day the internet's been on and off, so it's going to be doing it all night. So enjoy.
Marty has not been replaced with a robot. We promise you. Yeah,
probably be better for the channel if that happened, though. Anyway, so yeah, that's my first soiree. I've got a lot of, not a lot, but a pretty good chunk of regret to show tonight. So, Mike.
I sort of what I done with black metal. I dipped my toe in with Dark Throne and some other ones, Satyricon, and a handful of, and they were all the big, the big players that I didn't go anywhere sort of really cool and underground. But I quickly just thought, you know what, the actual recording quality of these albums doesn't justify the need for me to own them. I had them bought and I made MP3 files out of them all and then just sold them, to be quite honest. And for the amount of time that I feel compelled to put something black metal on, my God, that was the right move,
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the biggest genre of them all. It's
the most popular, hands down. It is the most popular.
Never ending.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show an album tonight that's big on atmosphere, but normally I'm not drawn to the whole. When someone's trying to sell me an album and saying, "Oh, it's really great on atmosphere" and blah blah blah, I'm thinking that's just gone over here. I don't want that. But that's obviously not always the case. But with black metal, I just felt like if I've got the 24 or so albums that I ended up enjoying on MP3, I think I might have saved myself a bit of heartache, and that's kind of what I've done.
Yep.
with that style. Right. So, well, another. There is a mix of rejoicing that you've bought something, but we're going to go into another remorseful one, and it was a really recent one from. I went to see a couple of bands, Undeath, who are from America, so you're probably familiar with them.
Yep.
They're a new up-and-coming death metal band.
And they're pretty hot and popular right now.
Yeah. So I went to see them, and the opening act for them was a band called Celestial Sanctuary from the UK. Now, these guys were really nice guys. I got a good conversation with them. Took a little bit of video and stuff, and I ended up enjoying the stage performance. the guitarist especially, I forget his name, but the guitarist especially was like really old school. He just looked like he could have been in Cannibal Corpse or something. He really went the extra mile with his stage presence. He looked the part fantastically. And I ended up sitting down and chatting with them and stuff. And I come away with this album as part of a, I'm going to support you guys and blah, blah, blah. And they really made me feel good that I'd gone to see them and that they had been the support band for Undeath. Mm-hmm. And I came home, and once the tinnitus subsided.
Oh, it never does. It's always there. Anyway, go ahead.
And then I got this on the turntable. I was just like, oh, shit. That is just the definition of mediocrity. and I wish these guys all the success, and they've got a new album imminent as well, which I'll give it a cursory listen before I commit any money to it. But for me, it was just death metal by numbers, the same generic barked out pattern for every line. There was no variety in the vocals, and as much as I like the actual guys themselves, even with such a fantastic experience of the meeting up with some of the VC guys as well, and meeting Undeath and doing all that, that's kind of a testament to how shitty he is when it soured the whole thing. I was like, oh, fucking hell, do I need to keep hold of this? And I've kept hold of it for the simple reason it's plummeted in price on Amazon, and there's no point in me attempting to sell it just yet, because I would be able to only ask about 12 or 13 pound for it. I'll wait till any of the copies that's lying around there in the Amazon warehouse get bought up by some other fucking idiots, and then I'll strike when I can make 20 quid back on it.
I have a feeling, we've been talking with friends here lately, that this whole OSDM thing that's been so wildly popular and running amok here the last 5-7 years, I guess, I think the bottom's starting to drop out of it a little bit. I don't know if you guys have noticed. There's just so many bands, and
it does seem a lot of people are kind of at the point where they're saturated with that and kind of like, you got to be really good to get people's attention with that style now.
Yep.
You can't just follow the basic rule book and still get a whole lot of notice. I think You're right.
Too many
for
bands.
Me, the vocals for me seem to have taken a back seat. These bedroom players have honed the skills probably better than some of the big hitters from the 90s and stuff like that. They've been watching tutorials on YouTube and stuff. They're nailing it. There's drummers out there. There's even a thing now called a fucking gravity blast. I'm not saying a lot of these old school bands do things like that, mind, but in general, the skill levels have gone up in the last 30
it's
years.
Crazy. It's really crazy.
But the actual uniqueness of the vocals and the importance of the vocals, it's as if these bands think that the musicianship will carry it on. It'll carry the album, it'll carry the song on, and I'm sorry, it won't. A great vocal performance backed by a mediocre instrumentation will always work better than fantastic instrumentation and a shit vocal performance, in my opinion anyway.
Jurgen, go to bed. Good to see you, brother. All right, Alan, you're up.
All right, I'll do a remorse one, and this goes back to again the 90s, where if you couldn't find it at a local record store or record show, you had to resort to something called ordering imports, and that shit was expensive. But there was no other way to get stuff. If there was an album you really wanted, and it wasn't released in the US, you'd have to go to usually a smaller mom and pop record store. They were the ones that always plugged into that the best. And Nice, Captain. And yeah, see if they could order you a copy, which, in a lot of cases, if they were good at, the business, they could track it down for you, but you would pay a lot for it. One of the first times I did this was for this one. I don't have a physical copy anymore, but this was possibly the first album I ever ordered an import of.
It's a lot to pay for that CD, but it's still got some good songs on it.
Kind of, yeah, but at this point, it was already, a rabid Halloween fan, loved all the early stuff. But again, news traveled much slower back then, especially into, the more rural areas where I was at, and, me and my friends kind of wondered, why hasn't this band put out another album after Keeper 2? It's been a few years. And I think it was, let me think. Yeah, it was a winter holiday, end of 92. It was, back home from college. And one of my buddies says, like, dude, there is a new Halloween album that came out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I swear to God, I wouldn't mess with you on this. He's like, right before, I left for break, ran into another guy on campus, and he had this album called Pink Bubbles Go Ape. And of course, I'm like, oh, bullshit, you're making this up. That's a stupid name. He's like, I know it sounds dumb, but I swear it's real. And so he's like, apparently it came out last year, but it never came out in the US. We're like, well, what the hell's that about? He's like, I don't know, but when I get back to, college, I'm going to try to order a copy. And so I did the same. Went back to college. There was a really great record store, in town. It was a college record store called Mad Hatter Records. The guy already kind of knew me on a first name basis. And so I was like, yeah, Jim, can you get something by Halloween called Pink Bubbles Go Ape? And he looked at me and asked me if I'd been drinking. But he's like, yeah, I'll track it down for you. And I knew he would. It probably took close to a month for him to find a copy, get it imported from Germany. It cost right at $30. It was, I want to say it was like 27 plus tax. For me, that was essentially a full month's worth of record money at the time. Back then, if I bought one brand new $15 CD, I might have enough left over to pick up one or two used things if something showed up in the used bin. So, $30 for a CD, this was twice the amount I had ever paid for any record. But it was Halloween, it's my favorite band. So like, yep, we're doing this. And I got it. And like you said, Marty, when back then, when you could only get one or two records at a time, you played the hell out of them. And I played the hell out of this. And yes, there are a few good songs on this one.
Kids of the Century?
Like quite a bit. Kids of the Century is pretty good. The Chance is really, really good.
That's a good song.
I think it's like a B-sides album.
It does feel like, though, it does feel like it's got a lot of B-sides material. That's a good way to describe it.
Back on the Streets is a good song.
That one's okay.
Heavy Metal Hamsters.
But then you get into stuff like that, and just the whole album, it does not at all. It's a massive, even if you want to still give it like a very tentative kind of thumbs up, going from their early material to this, it's this big step down. And so played as much as I like. I was like, yeah, it's okay. I don't think the album has aged well either. So if anything, I've grown to like it less over the years. But I had to, not only on top of having the music be a big step down from all the previous stuff, there was also this sensation of like, well, I ain't buying anything else this month because I spent my whole record budget buying and waiting, almost 3-4 weeks for this one thing to come in. And it's kind of it was almost, and we've talked about this before, sometimes you almost force yourself to like an album because you just don't want to come to grips with the fact that it's not that good. It's just like, no, it's Halloween, it's got to be good. I paid $30 for it. You're damn right it doesn't completely stink. I'll find something positive to say about it. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not a great Halloween album. And yeah, it was harder for me to try to enjoy it for what it was because I had paid so much for it. It was the only way I was going to get to hear it, in a way I didn't have a choice. But yeah, truth be told, I would definitely have liked to have gotten my $30 back. But yeah, that was the other thing too. Once you buy something like that as an import, back then, there's no way to sell it. You can't put it on eBay. There was no eBay. There's no Discogs. you take it to the used store, they might have given me, $4 or $5 in trade credit for it. Well, I'm not going to throw away $25 on it. You're stuck with it. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that was an early case of buyer's remorse for me. It's not the worst album in the world, but the price I had to pay, the big letdown, in terms of expectations, yeah, that one still hurts a bit, even all these years later.
You sort of think that. Well, I do. I don't know whether you lads think the same, but I sort of think on something like that. Well, these lot done Keepers 1 and 2, and obviously most of them done Walls of Jericho and the mini LP. It must be me. I'm just not hearing it properly. I'm to blame here.
Yes.
Until obviously you end up saying, actually, no, fuck that. It's not good enough. But a lot, I'm more than happy to apportion blame to myself before the band when I don't like something, because I'm not the professional musician. I haven't got a proven track record. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, well, it's got to be my fault. This,
I will do that, especially with bands that tend to be more technical, because like you, I'm not a musician at all. So a lot of times it's easy for me to say, well, it probably is good, and I can't appreciate the fact that they're using this weird time signature and all these bent chords, and the fact that there's 4 extra strings hanging off the end of their dick or something to make this kind of sound. It's my fault. I am not musically adept enough to understand it. So yeah, I will do that sometimes.
That's why we said on here before, the technical music is always a spectacle, and it's always like, wow, look at this shiny new thing, look how cool and technical it is. But after the newness of that CD wears off, I'm always going to go back to the bands that are playing 6/8, that swing, that Bathory waltz type of catchy air guitar shit. I don't want to listen to someone trying to calculate a math problem while they're playing their guitar. It's not fun. It's just not good. But all right, we're still in regret. Vertigo Records, it's a store down in Grand Rapids. Hearing a lot of stuff about this Black Twilight Circle collective down in Southern California. Got to check this out. It's like 1 or 2 guys doing a bunch of different bands. So they had this freaking box set there, the Twilight, or I don't know, I can't pronounce it, but it's got Shaitan, basically a bunch. Volan is on here, which is the biggest band of this whole collective. There's like 10, 15 different bands on this thing, all basically with the same guy in them, most of them. And this box set's really nice. It's got a big booklet in it. It's a 3 LP set, again, 3 LPs, like a 3 LP mixtape. Very cool looking vinyl. I'm not taking all this crap out and showing off. It doesn't matter. But I paid, $46 for this just because I wanted to check out these bands. A lot of bands sound the same or have a similar vibe to them because obviously the same members are in most of them. And again, this is one of those hype things. People showing the VC, show off all this crap. I get sucked into it. I'm like, oh, I got to check this out. And instead of being a smart person and turn on YouTube, like, nope, I'm going to get this $46 waste of crap, which I've listened to maybe twice. It just sits, man. And I bought another record of another comp from this group on vinyl too, which I've listened to once. So the sickness is real. It's a thing. And this probably needs to go. If anybody in the chat wants to hit me up with something that they want to trade for it, I like Halloween. Darius era records mainly. But yeah, this was an interesting experiment, but and I get why some people like this stuff, but I just don't. Yeah, there's apparently a sketchy crap goes with this stuff too. I don't know. Whatever. This was a waste of money. Had to have it, and it just sits. It just sits, and it's impressing no one sitting in my collection. Let's be honest. It's impressing no one. Mike.
Right. this week I bought the most expensive record that I've ever bought, and I just went on a currency converter just to get the exact dollar price, including shipping and everything. And believe it or not, it came to $94 for me to pick this up this week. So it's an original press of Slowly We Rot. Now, back in sort of 89, I left school, and in around the May time, something like that. And in the summer of 89, we seem to have all these really harder hitting thrash albums. They were getting marketed as thrash. Nowadays, when people talk about the start of death metal coming on and everything, it seems very convenient for people to say, oh, well, yeah, Possessed had that song called death metal, and so there you go. And it was all a nice, smooth transition, and it fucking wasn't. It was, I didn't even, back then when I heard Slowly We Rot, I hadn't even heard the phrase death metal. It was still just being marketed as thrash. And one night in my local rock night that I used to frequent, this guy who I was standing next to, we used to fetch records down and get the DJ to play them and sort of get up and air guitar and headbang and all the rest of it. And this guy came down with a brand new record, and we'd had some big sort of hitters, like Sabbath had put Dreamweaver out, which is okay. It's not death metal. It's always a thrash album, but it's kind of punishing vocally. Yeah. I remember getting Beneath the Remains, and which, to be honest, I thought was fucking unlistenable. But it turns out the guy who dubbed the cassette for me had been somebody had messed around with his EQ, and there was no bass in it, so it was horrendous. And then Slowly We Rot. And this guy came along, and I said, oh, what's that you've got? And he brought the record down. He showed me it. And he says, it's the world's heaviest band. Now, I was only 15, so it didn't matter that, well, how can you prove that? How do you know that? That didn't matter. I just took it as gospel. It's the world's heaviest band. So in the rock night, I'm like, oh, right, it's going to come on in a minute. I can't wait. And then when that fucking needle dropped on that album, I forget what song they put on now, but Jesus Christ, we all just fell about laughing. It was so over the top, like just unbelievable. You couldn't take it seriously. The vocals were just so jarring compared to what we'd heard. And a couple of days later, I was talking to another friend, and he went, oh yeah, apparently that Obituary band, there's not really many vocals on that. He's just making those noises that sort of sound like vocals. And I was like, oh, yes, that's it. I'm fucking all in now. It was just so extreme. It just seemed so extreme and so like two fingers up at I fucking got that album. And I was playing it to my parents. I was playing it to my aunties and uncles, and I'm going, he doesn't have any work. You're not getting it. It's a band, it's an album, but he doesn't sing. He's making noises, and I was so fucking infatuated with it and excited and stuff. Anyway, I've had various versions of it over the years, but I never actually got an original vinyl copy of it myself. And I got vinyl reissues and stuff, and a lot of reissues are done very well, but some reissues really aren't. And I wasn't satisfied with the Slowly We Rot reissue that I had. And to be quite honest, it stands well above the rest of their catalogue for me. I know some people are probably in the chat going, what the fuck, cause of death? And to me, I find that a bit of a snooze fest. It's as if the blew the wad first time out. I do enjoy other Obituary albums, definitely. I'm not saying I don't. I own a few of them, but Slowly We Rot for me just stands alone as so savage and brutal. And I don't feel. I was going to ask you this question, but obviously don't feel obligated to answer it because maybe your wives are watching and you just don't want to divulge that.
Mine's not.
But,
She don't care either.
I've paid $94 for that this week. It arrived. It's in really nice condition. The artworks look sharp as a tack, and everything is what I remember. Because although I didn't own it as a kid, I was around it enough. We had a bit of overlap between our circle of friends, so I held that in my hands quite a lot as a kid, and it's exactly what I remember. Whereas the reissue wasn't, and I actually think, well, you know what? If that's the going rate for that record, and I absolutely love that record, £90 neither here nor there, because if such like time that I would need to sell it, that's the going rate. So I'll end up getting that for it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter what it costs me. So, for me, I don't really have a limit. A lot of people sort of have a limit. They will not pay more than X amount for a record. And to be honest, if a record's the going rate, and I think, well, if I feel too uncomfortable owning this, if I can get out of this quite comfortably, then there doesn't seem to be a risk, in my opinion. I'm happy to jump in if I can jump out.
Yeah. Well, for me, I struggle with anything over or around $70. I can be a frugal shopper, and I do like going and hitting used bins and for CDs and records. That Vertigo Records I talked about, they have very sane prices in their used bins, which is great. But I'm also of the mindset that if you have the money and you want it, exactly, pay whatever it takes. At the end of the day, you get. I saw your post. It was either on Facebook or Instagram where you put the reissue up against the original, and it looked like the reissue had been sitting out in the sun. It was all like faded, and it was crap. I'm like, holy crap, what a shitty reproduction. So, I mean, to get it the way it was supposed to be, and I'm not a big fan of remastering or tweaking the sound from the original. I don't care. I want the original. So that's I get it.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
And bonus songs can get to fuck as well. I don't want live. I don't want 2 live tracks.
Yeah, that's a waste.
Bolted onto the end of it, which is what that reissue's got.
Yeah. All right, Alan.
All right, let's see.
So far, Mel's note list is pretty light.
I'll just nip to the little boys' room.
Right on.
Oh yeah. Well, no, just to touch on the price thing before I show the next one. Yeah, it's very easy to criticize people for spending a lot on music, especially for paying a lot for a single item. It's something I've learned is your perspective on that definitely changes as you get older. You get into different jobs where you're making more money. So yeah, it's not something, that people should not be judgy about. If you have the money and you can afford it, if your bills are paid and your family is taken care of and stuff, you're not cutting corners on your own, health or, family members' safety or something. Sure, you can spend it if you want to. It's your money. That's fine. I don't usually talk about, exact amounts I pay for things because people do tend to get pretty snobbish and, judgy about that kind of thing. So, but yeah, if I'm going to spend a lot on an item, I will talk about it with my wife. I'll say like, hey, this rare thing has come up that I've wanted for a long time. I've looked at the budget. I think we're doing okay. Any issues if I try to buy it? And most I don't know. Maybe there's been a time or two where she's like, "Yeah, this probably isn't a good month for that kind of expense." And if that's the case, I'm like, "Okay, cool. We'll let that go." So yeah, I try to be very responsible about that. I don't buy stuff and try to hide it from her or anything. I've seen people do that kind of stuff, and I'm not cool with that. I'm not going to do that myself. But yeah, at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I paid this many hundreds of dollars for this thing, or I traded a kidney for that thing. it just doesn't end well because too many people are just going to then gripe and complain about the price tag rather than hearing anything you say about the record or the item, whatever it is. So yeah, all I'll say in terms of price stuff, yes, I have spent over $100 for a record before, and I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe I'll get into pricing on things someday, but today's not the day for that. So next one for me, this is another regret, and this is another case of import prices from back in the early 90s. A German band called Bonfire that I liked a lot. They were kind of billed, they were scooped up by RCA Records and kind of billed as like, the next Scorpions, which I didn't think was a good label for them. They sounded more American than Scorpions ever sounded. Regardless, I'd gotten one or two of their albums that did get released in the US, really liked them. But, I came to find out, they had more. So once again, back down to the same, college record store. It's like, can you find me this Bonfire album called Point Blank? And they're like, yeah, okay, give us 3 weeks and $30, and it's the Halloween Story all over again. This one starts out a little better though. They get this for me. This is the copy, and it still has this is still even the original jewel case. It's got the Made in Germany sticker on it. They got it for me. I paid for it. Another full month's record money down the drain on one CD, but loved it. Great album. It's not one I play much anymore, but I probably played this thing over 100 times, back then. Loved it to death. Exactly. Great for that, kind of style. It's not glammy, sleazy hair metal or anything. It's, closer to, again, kind of in that same vein that Scorpions were going for, that hard rock metal, but, in a commercially appealing kind of way. So this ended well. What do? Oh, there's another Bonfire album. Trot, right back down to the record store. Didn't have a car. Had to walk to this place. Hey, can you get another one of their albums for me? They apparently made another one called Knockout. I think it's referenced in the liner notes in here or something. And 3 weeks and $30 later, this one showed up in the mail. Or not in the mail, at the store. I picked it up. Now, the first problem here is, of course, we have cover art, that is much, much, much too zeroed in on somebody's crotch. They're wearing a giant belt buckle with the logo of the band, and those like late 80s men's basketball shorts or something. So right away you're like, okay, I don't need that on the cover, but hey, Bonfire record, it's got to be good, right? This record stinks. I had no way of knowing it at the time, but it turns out, essentially the band was kind of falling apart at this point. Disagreements, record label problems. They had failed to become a giant thing in the US. So yes, their albums weren't getting really, RCA wasn't dealing with them and stuff. And so this album is kind of filled with, there's some cover songs. There's definitely just some cheesy things that feel like B-sides. There's a cover of Stroke Me, for God's sake, right in the middle of the damn album.
Why? It's like they got into cahoots with Mexican radio guys and let's ruin songs with albums with stupid covers. Anyway.
Yes, and that song actually, sadly, is kind of emblematic of a lot of the non-cover songs on the album too. It was so crushing because I'd gone out on a limb, taken a chance, ordered this one, paid a lot for it, loved it to death. Surely it would work twice. It did not work twice. I very, very discreetly got rid of this thing, years later. I probably just put it in a used bin for like $4 of credit, swallowed my pride, and just got the damn thing off the shelf. This was one that it was immediately say, oh, I need those $30 back. I could have bought something with those $30. $30 was a lot of money for me at that time, and to have blown it on an album by a band I liked, that was just. This wasn't even like Pink Bubbles where I could talk myself into there's a few good songs. I think there was one song on this album that actually felt like it might have been a genuine leftover from this one. All the other stuff just felt like scraps that were thrown together. And here you go. Yeah. So no more Bonfire for me after this. I think the group broke up and then reformed, and they've done more albums since then. I have never checked out any other Bonfire after this. I still love those first 2 or 3 albums, but Knockout pretty much knocked me out of the Bonfire fan club.
I just want to thank Wade C for the bucks. Thank you so much. Appreciate you,
Wade.
man.
Yep. Very nice. Thanks to everybody hanging out in the chat. Folks there's lots of conversations and stories bouncing back and forth on this topic. So glad folks are enjoying it. And while it can be sometimes painful to relate these times that we've, blown money on things, I think it's something we can definitely all relate to and kind of, in a weird way, take a little comfort in the fact that it's not just us, that other people have, made that same mistake too.
And cheers to Jim Dofka in the chat from the band Dofka. Go check them out. Great U.S. heavy metal. Good to see you around, Jim. Thanks for stopping by.
Cheers.
Okay. Well, I like this.
In remorse and regret, Marty.
This is just kind of I bought this because I love the band. I wanted the stuff on record. I don't like picture discs, but I bought it anyway because a friend of mine did the design for it. It was during a time where I was recently divorced, living on my own in a house that I could barely afford. And I spent $70 or $80 on this box set that I didn't need because I had all this crap on CD. But it's the Emperor box set. Emperor, what is this? Imperial Vinyl Presentation, Candlelight Records. It was damaged in shipping. Of course, the side's all blown out. And it's, Stephen O'Malley did the design for it, so it looks really nice. It's got a booklet with it. I just hate picture. This does not have Prometheus on it. In it. But, I found I listened to these things maybe twice, and that was it. And it does have the Wrath of the Tyrant stuff though too. So which is cool. But yeah, it's just bare bones picture disc stuff, and the box was ruined in the shipping, which was a bummer. And it's one of those things I look at it and I don't know how rare this was, although there was it says 216. They probably printed a bunch of these stupid things. It's one of those things. If I'm going to listen to this band, I'm listening to them on CD just because I have the CDs. It's quick and easy. I actually have an original pressing of In the Night Side Eclipse, which is my favorite by them. So this has always been kind of a pointless purchase, but it was one of those things. I was psyched to get it. I felt like I got something rare and cool, and I knew somebody that worked on it. So, but it just sits, and I have not had a sleeve that fits it, so it's getting a little scratched up from being on the shelf. Whatever, my kid will deal with it someday when I'm stuffed in an oven somewhere. Made pork rinds out of. But yeah, had to have it. I would have much rather had a reissue with the jackets. I prefer records and jackets. Box sets are a commitment, and they're cool and fun to have, but I find myself when I get them, I rarely return to them. Of course, all the ones that I don't own a lot of them, the ones I've shown tonight, I've regret buying. So I don't know. But
box sets have been popping up a lot in the chat tonight too. That people often end up, and then I think one reason it's easy to get remorse for those, they do tend to be expensive items. You got to often pay extra for those. So if you don't really like it, it's easy to feel a little bit burnt on them.
All right, Mike, what have you got next for us?
Well, in the I might as well carry on that then. If box sets are popular in the chat just now, I might as well pull one out. I have been, well, I'll just show it right away. This is the Voivod set that came out last year.
I was so interested in that.
And
there's a couple things I'm interested in that thing, but yeah.
By the time this came out, I had bought all the other box sets. But to be quite honest, when it comes to the noise bands, the top tier bands that are getting this sort of treatment, I am least connected to Voivod, because the actual albums that I am connected to and that I did enjoy back in the day, they're not even featured in this set anyway, because it was Nothing Facing Angel Rat that I ended up really enjoying properly. These Killing Technology, Dimension Hatred, they're okay, but I didn't need to own a £105 box set at the time. And it's padded out with sort of, I don't even know properly. I think it's live material or demos or outtakes of some sort. Really the sort of thing that like Jürgen would appreciate, being a bit of a super fan of Voivod. Certainly not something that I feel qualified to bother even opening. I haven't even played those records. I've played the main studio albums. And when you consider that I very rarely take it out, you can see this sort of foil coming off.
Yep.
Already.
I can honestly say I don't love the image on the front either. They could have picked a better image.
The thing is, what's quite terrifying is I've got the Running Wild one, which is the single. It's a singles collection. It's not the albums. They haven't put an albums one out yet, but it's a singles collection called Pieces of Eight. And that gets gentle sort of use. But the thing is, all the print on the back of it, that's all starting to bubble as if it's gone faulty and stuff. And, you know, when you open these box sets, you know, people do unboxing videos and stuff. And, yeah, you know, the knock on them and they say, oh, it's very solid and, you know, it's well made and blah, blah. And yeah, on the surface, that's exactly how it does look. But just sitting idle on your shelf for 18 months, all of a sudden you look and you think, oh, what the hell's going on there? Why is that deteriorating in front of me? It's not getting any sort of heavy use. And we're seeing faults. God knows what these things are going to look like in 10 years through no fault of the owners, you know. And I honestly, purely and simply bought that box set because I thought, well, the Creator one, I didn't buy when it came out because I just thought, no, I'm not doing the whole box sets thing. But the Creator one kept pulling, you know, it was like dancing in the window in its underwear.
Twerking.
And eventually I bought that and that was it. That was the catalyst. I ended up with them all. But and I just bought the Voivod one because I thought, oh, I don't want to get into a situation like I did with the Creator one where I was prepared, even though I didn't end up having to, I was prepared to pay a little bit over the odds for the Creator one. I thought, if it means getting, like, securing the whole collection, the last thing I want to do is pay over the odds for the Voivod one. So I better get it now. And, yeah, it doesn't get any love. And I've tried multiple times the big albums that I'm supposed to like as a 80s metal thrash fan, blah blah blah, and you know they're okay. They're not bad albums by any stretch of the imagination, and there's some catchy songs like Chaos Mongers and stuff. But by and large, I'm just like, well, yeah, put it back in the box, put it on the shelf, pull something else out. It's just not grabbing me the way that I know that band grabs other people. So
thanks,
yeah.
Score Metal. Appreciate you, man. You didn't have to do that. Very nice. Yeah, I mean, I get the impression that, I mean, I still have one more box to show. You know, I don't really regret buying this one, but they're a commitment, and it's almost like they're seen more as a piece, you know, as opposed to something you're going to throw in your car and listen to, or, you know, whatever. But you buy a box set, it's more like a piece, like a coffee table book or something. And that's another thing I want to talk about too with the collecting thing. Vinyl, when I was a kid, it was vinyl and cassettes. I mean, yeah, I was also of the era where there were 8 tracks. I grew up with 8 tracks, and I had a handful of those. But it was then, you know, vinyl was always there. and it wasn't that expensive, but I was just kind of a tapes kid. That's what I had the money for. Then CDs took over, and I tried to get rid of a lot of my tapes and whatever. But it seems like now vinyl has come back for me, that I find myself buying stuff I already own on CD on vinyl if it's something I really love, because the vinyl seems legitimate to me. Like, okay, I finally own this. It's like I've got hundreds of tapes on the other side of the wall here, and I look at them like it just feels like a cheap dub. Like I'm just waiting for the vinyl or the CD version to come around. Hey Laz, what's up, man?
Hey,
and
yeah, I feel like that. I know exactly what you mean.
Yep, I finally own this now, and that it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
It is.
But, and I just want to say, everybody, there's been a lot of new subscribers here the last couple of weeks, last month. If you're new and you're in the chat, we're seeing some new faces, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We have a pretty cool community here. Thanks for stepping in and taking part in it. A lot of fun, and to see it growing. It's been a slow grow, but lately it's been a little bit quicker. So if you're on, you're just kind of watching, don't be a wallflower, jump into the conversation. Everybody doesn't bite except maybe Dwayne. He might bite. All right, Alan, you're up.
Yeah, let's see. And going back to Gore Metal's super chat, the eBay auction bidding war is one we haven't touched on yet.
It's true. It's a thing.
That is such a thing. Yeah, I'm pretty good at not doing that, but I have to be really careful about it.
I must win. Yes. I must own it. I must be number one.
I really wanted to find something I could show off that, because that's a big category for a lot of people of where regret kicks in when you suddenly realize, God, I went way, way out of my mind. Not because you wanted the record, sure, but you didn't enter that bid to buy the record. You entered that bid to own the person who kept outbidding you in like 15-cent increments for the past hour.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've heard a lot of horror stories from folks over the years where they got swept up and carried away with it and entered bids they should not have. But my dad has done that, buying records before. He has overbid a few times just because he's just like, what do you mean I ain't got the high bid? Son of a bitch. They ain't buying that. Put more money in. and after the fact, it's kind of like, oh shit, now I got to pay for this. Fuck, what'd I do? Like, yeah, you know what you did.
Yep.
But if it helps anybody out there when it comes to bidding on eBay, and let's face it, eBay is not quite the forum it used to be for buying music. I always try to, and I'm going to bid on something this weekend, so I've got to go through this procedure tomorrow or Sunday. I really do try, before I ever put in any bid, I think, what is the maximum amount I would bid for this record? What do I want to pay? Factor in the shipping. And I say I want to give $50 for it. So I want to pay 45. I'm going to bid 45. The shipping's another $5. So there's the $50. I'm going to tweak that by like $2 or $3. I will go ahead and bid 48. So it'll trickle up to 53. That way, if I lose it, somebody has clearly gone, I'm not losing it by a quarter. Someone's bidding, $55, $60. Fine. I'm not even close. I have no interest in it at that price. Or if I have to win it at that amount, I only went over my, what I wanted by a couple of bucks. So either way, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm not going to feel like I bid way too much. But I'm also not going to feel like, oh shit, I should have bid. If I bid $5 more, I could have won it. Why didn't I just put in $5 more? I always add like that extra, $5 or $7 or $4, just so that at the end of the auction, one way or the other, I'm not going to feel that bad, win or lose. So that's my approach to it. Hey, if that helps somebody adjust their bidding strategy, that's awesome. But yeah, you do not get in bidding wars. That will not end well. All right, let's see. I want to switch gears and show, more of a recent purchase that it's not a regret, but it's very much in line with what y'all have been showing in terms of just like, I didn't really need to buy this. I just didn't. It is the Winter Into Darkness pressing. It's not really a box set per se. It's got the same stuff every other Winter every issue has, because they only made an album and an EP.
Yeah.
it's a pretty nice one. It comes in a slipcase. It's it's on red vinyl. I am a bit of a sucker for colored vinyl. I'll admit it.
Crust Doom. That stuff it's pretty cool.
It's a very cool album. I love the album, and that was kind of the problem. I had stopped by one of a local record store. I don't go too often. They don't have a lot of turnover in the record racks. There's no reason to go to this place weekly or even monthly. So I only go by maybe once every 2 or 3 months, something like that. And flipping through, he had a copy of this. And I know the guy, he's really nice. He saw me looking at it. He came over and talked about it because he really digs this album too. And I was like, yeah, it's a really cool album and stuff. Yeah, and I was like, well, what the hell? He doesn't have anything else I want. It is a nice item. I like the album. I'll pick it up. I'm not sure. I don't think I've even played it yet. I did open it and look through the contents, but I don't think I've even put it on the turntable. One reason being, I already this pressing of it. This is the Southern Lord press from 2010 or so. That's on white vinyl. If your band's name is Winter, frankly, the white vinyl kind of makes a little more sense to me than the red vinyl. so aesthetically, this one, I think is better. This comes with a nice booklet and all that jazz. So why did I buy this other one? Because I'm a sick little monkey. I don't really know. It wasn't, it didn't, cost a fortune, but I mean, it wasn't cheap. It's, the sticker's still on there. It's $44 in tax. I was kind of thinking part of my justification standing in the store again was I like this guy. I don't buy a lot from him. Usually I will find one thing in his store. And so I was like, okay, I think this is the one thing I want to pick up from him today. But I was also kind of thinking, I don't remember if the sound quality was quite right on this. I kind of remember playing this when I got it and feeling like it didn't have the best sound to it. So I was like, well, maybe this new one will sound better. Well, I don't know because I haven't played the new one, so I can't say if it sounds any better or not. And it's been a while since I put this copy on the turntable, so I don't even remember, did it really have a sound issue? Was I playing it on my old stereo, which was a piece of junk? Maybe. I don't know. So, someday I'm sure this will finally make it onto the turntable, and it's a good album. I enjoy it, but
does it have the EP on it too?
I believe, it's got the Eternal Frost EP tracks.
Well, if you ever want to trade it for a Black Twilight Circle box set, I know a guy.
I appreciate the offer, but might stick with the one that I like. But at the end of the day, it was $44. I could have done something else with that. Picked up something maybe that I didn't already own a copy of. Taken a chance on blind buying something else that I'd heard of but never checked out. So it's just sat here on the shelf. It's probably been a year or so that it's been sitting here, and well, there it is. Again, I'm not kicking myself or losing sleep over the fact that I bought it, but it is a little bit of a head scratcher. It's like,
they're a band though. You really got to be in the mood for. I get it. I mean, I've got like a 1.5 foot stack of records in the other room that I bought. Some of them 2 years ago. I haven't spun yet. Just not in the mood for it yet. I had to have it at the time, but
I've played Into Darkness in the past year. I just haven't.
Just not that one
version. I went out and paid $44 for.
Okay, sick little monkey.
Yeah. If you've played that album, Alan, and you still haven't played the box set version, that is definitely weird.
I have no defense. I really don't. As I said, it's a combination of it's there in front of me, and I'm more prone to buy something in person. You try to pick up something, when I go to a store if I know the folks and like it, and it's a cool album, but it probably wasn't the smartest purchase I made. Oh well.
What are you gonna do?
I want to pass it over to you and see what you've got next, Marty.
We're gonna go to this is a regret. I regret buying this. I'm glad I didn't buy the vinyl of it. when this album came out, everybody in the VC showed it. Everybody. And it's one of those, it's kind of those artsy craftsy releases where there's like a lot of crap in it. And everybody would show every single flyer and every single sticker and it was like, what? And I'm like, okay. And this is a band I'm not a big, humongous fan of, Leviathan. This is Scar-Sighted.
Ah, yes. Mm-hmm.
The vinyl, I mean, I can pull this out real quick. I'm not a big Leviathan fan. First of all, the box set, it's these crappy, this stuff. And then there's like all these little prints, you know, all these little, I mean, he's a great artist, whatever. He's got a definite style. I just don't care. I just don't care about this. And I don't know why I bought it. I was hoping for better. And it's just a CD in a box full of art prints. The box is even half full. They've got like a piece of cardboard in here to fill it out. People that bought the vinyl, it was ridiculous. It was quite an impressive set of, it seems like there was some that had even the die cut, but
there were, I saw one in the local store had a die cut one with all the like art prints and stuff. It took 15 minutes just to open the box and look at everything. Cause I did.
I'm pissed at myself because I fell to, the herd mentality. I got to hear this. When before Leviathan was even a big thing, I had a friend that lived out in California that knew Jeff, and they had all of his demos. He would like send me CDR. So I heard all this guy's stuff before it was getting released. And I thought it was, you know, you had a really cool bedroom black metal aesthetic, except he was playing an E-kit, good drummer. But Leviathan to me was always more rhythmically interesting than sonically interesting. A couple albums are okay. It's kind of like Disaster too. You only need a couple other albums and it's good, but I don't know. This is so average. And I bought this, I listened to it once and it's been sitting on my rack the whole time. So this is Buyer's Remorse. The VC pulled me in. I wanted to hear from myself. It was as good as everybody was saying. And instead of being smart and checking it out online, nah, I'm just going to buy it. I'm like, should I buy the vinyl? No, I'm just going to buy the CD. I'm glad I did. Cause this is like, and again, all the art stuff in here, it's cool, but it's completely pointless. I can't believe who put this out. Yeah. Profound Lore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I was the label, I would have crapped my pants. Like, no, you can't do this. It would cost $1 million to produce it, but whatever. I'm sure it's sold because a lot of people bought it and Leviathan's kind of a big name in the scene, but man, I regret buying it. It was a waste of money. I bought it. I knew better. Yep.
You know, Marty, do you not think that that sort of that compulsion that you have to buy stuff like we all do? Why don't you one day just try it, even if it's on a small level, and just list some stuff on eBay or Discogs, and you might end up getting a bit of a buzz, because I get a buzz out of having a clear out and getting rid of all this sort of stuff that I feel remorseful about. I end up getting that similar sort of buzz from buying from selling, and it's an even better one because you get the buzz and also you get a reduction in the remorse. It's a win-win. Now you might end up going, oh shit, I wish I hadn't done that, but I doubt it.
Yeah,
I doubt you'll do that. And and you can always stop if you feel like that. I would seriously consider it if I was you, even if it's just on a small level to start with.
Jurgen is side with Mike here and then preaching from experience. Go check out Jurgen's channel. He's selling a whole bunch of stuff, people. Especially if you're in Europe, way more affordable to not have to ship that stuff. But yeah, you know what, Mike? I used to sell shit on eBay. I mean, there's been things like Judas Iscariot records I've sold for hundreds of dollars, and Burning Witch album. I mean, I've made a lot of money selling on eBay of personal collection stuff, and I just kind of stopped doing it. I kind of stopped doing it once I started doing the YouTube thing, because then I just started sending people stuff, which, I own a record label. I package and sell records all the time. So that is kind of, I get what you're saying, but I kind of get that already. I think more of a buzz sending people stuff. It's cool to send. I got a package coming to you too. I've just been saving up my coin to send it to England, but it's coming. It's coming. It's fun to send people stuff and to see them happy. They receive something that I no longer care about. But yeah, some of these collections, they might pull some money, and that would go to a good place. And we all could use money, especially now. When you go to the grocery store and 2 bags of groceries are over $200. Oh my God. Anyway, Mike, you're up.
This one I'm going to show that I don't entirely regret it, but it was a grail. I mean, it seems strange to end up feeling remorseful about buying a grail. But I bought an original press of the Scanner album.
I got that from Alan for my birthday. Thank you, Alan.
I knew going in that it didn't have Galactos, and I thought that's all right. I'll pick up, and I used to have it as a kid, but I'll rebuy to get Galactos, the Doomsday News comp,
which is great to have on vinyl. Actually, it's cool.
Yeah, I'll get it. But what I didn't realize, I knew that was always the case with this record, but I didn't realize that it didn't have Wizard Force on it as well. And when I got the album and I just threw it on and I'm sitting listening to it and no Wizard Force happened, I was like, what the fuck? I mean, that's my favorite song on the fucking whole album. So I was absolutely gutted. So then I started to look for that. There's a repress from about 2016. It goes for more than the fucking OG. That's got Galactos and Wizard Force on by, I forget who it is now.
I've got a Dive Bomb CD reissue that has Galactos and Wizard Force on it.
I had that, but I VCLT'd it to Darcy because he was struggling to get hold of those first 2 Scanner albums. So I sent them to him. But I thought, well, it's all right. I'm replacing it with something even better. And then it come and it didn't have 2 songs on that are, I was like, oh, shit. So probably on reflection, I should have just kept the CD of it or but it's here now and it feels like it's just gone through like a bit of a non-return valve, an album like that. I can't turn it back and push it back out the door.
That's a good wall hanger then, Mike, because that's a killer cover. I love that on vinyl. It's cool to have that artwork, a very unique album cover. I don't know.
I know I have the album in MP3 if I really but yeah, Wizard Force was a big song for me off that album, so I was a bit disappointed. It was my own stupidity. I didn't look that, I didn't ever consider that 2 songs would be omitted from the original. Because I've never heard that over the years. I always knew.
Well, Galactos was never on the original. It was always meant to be, but it was Wizard Force, so yeah.
Yeah, but I always knew that about Galactos. I just did not have a clue about Wizard Force, and I didn't hear the album back in the day. So I only ever heard Galactos, liked it, but just never ever had the actual album. And to be quite honest, lost touch with the idea of even ever getting it, because and then just completely forgot about it until watching you lads talk about it one day on one of the streams. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that forgot all about that.
It's a great overlooked album. All right, Alan.
Yep. Yes, fun trivia fact for the Scanner fans out there too. On the cover, the guy's holding that big thing. That is the RMU. That is the title of one of the songs.
Yeah.
The RMU, it stands for something like Reticular Module Unit, and it specifically does refer to that big device telescope weapon looking thing that he's holding on the cover. So yes, they even had a name for the goofy thing that shows up that the guy is using to look out at Earth. All right, let's see. Another one for me. This kind of is just one example of a class of records that in general often, invoke a little bit of buyer's remorse. Because in general, even if they're pretty good, I very rarely play them. These are random live bootlegs. The one I pulled off the shelf for this is a Running Wild one, Metal Death Live 83. I love Running Wild. I love really Running Wild. There's not a lot of material that was officially released, in the early days of Running Wild. You had the first 2 albums, and then it was hoist anchor and rig the sails and flibber the gibbets and all that kind of stuff. So when I come across something like this, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, cool, I'll pick that up. But let's face it, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you put this on and the sound quality is crap. Somebody had a Walkman, jammed it down their trousers at a show, in a smoky bar in Dusseldorf in 1983, and that's your source material that you're listening to for the next 38 minutes.
You're listening to someone's sweaty nuts rubbing up against the mic for 40 minutes.
The sound quality is often not very good. You can't hear what the guys are saying, between songs. It's just, it's all echoey in the hall. The acoustics are crap. And sometimes the performances just aren't all that great either. And it's just like, if I want to hear him play these songs, I'm just going to put on Gates to Purgatory and Branded in Exile. I'll just play the albums. That sounds so much better. There are exceptions, of course. Sometimes you get into live bootlegs that had, that it was a soundboard recording or something, and or the band was really on that night, or somebody actually, they held the Walkman up and put it on the edge of the stage, and the band didn't mind. But I pick up these from time to time. I've got Running Wild ones, I've got Kirathungal ones, I've got the list goes on. I very rarely I get them, I play them once or twice. I always feel like, it's pretty much what I was afraid it might sound like, and I put it on the shelf, and next time I go to the record show, same thing may happen. One reason I keep doing this is these things can be kind of hard to get. eBay doesn't allow bootlegs. Sure, some slip through and get on the site, but a lot of them are filtered out. Discogs lists, they'll have the, a bar, like, yes, you can probably see this on Discogs, but it's always got that little note, this item has been blocked from sale on this platform. So if you do want one of them, you have to do some more digging around on other sites to get them. A lot of them are not made in the United States. So for us, in America, you're often having to import them from Greece or Italy or South America. So then you're also paying shipping on top of whatever they wanted for a copy of it. And so, it's, you end up spending a lot sometimes, and the quality is just not there. So when I see them at a record show or something, like, I'll take a chance on it. It very rarely pays off for me. I should have learned my lesson to steer, to pass on these more often than I do. Sick Little Monkey hasn't quite learned that lesson yet. My bad.
I just want to pull up a thing here using this screen share real quick. I know Mike is a big Running Wild fan. No Remorse Records has launched 6 shaped Running Wild picture discs up for sale. I don't know if you've seen these or not. They're about 30 euros a piece. So it'd be kind of cool if they put those in a box set, but that is the contents of the pieces of 8 box that is on CD. That I've got. That's all they are, but yeah. All right, I'm up. Okay. I don't know if this is remorse or stupidity. It's more stupidity. So Ulysses Siren. I've shown this CD on here before. I saw it. I've been on the hunt for the vinyl of this. They're not very well known thrash band from the Bay Area back in the day. They rip. They're great. Absolutely awesome. They're Above the Ashes LP or CD or mini CD or whatever the hell it is. It's just a ripper. I finally found a version of the CD online for $25. I'm like, I'm never going to find this any cheaper. I'm just going to snag it. I looked it up on Discogs first. It's shown as an official release, so I bought it. $25 later, this arrives. It's blue and black. It's got like the small artwork in the corner. You open it up. Obviously, something doesn't look quite right here. Well, apparently, this is a Amazon CDR that are considered, although it's a silver CD, they are considered, here's the inside, they are considered official releases. So I paid $25 for this hot garbage. And, you know, the song, the music on it rips. It's great. So be warned. If you, it's on Flight 19 Publishing, 2002 Flight 19 Publishing. Apparently that is like an Amazon CDR service of some sort. I don't know if it's Amazon or somebody else. So yeah, I've got this thing here. A month or so ago, our show friend to other people in the chat, King Folly, had one of his weekly Facebook auctions. Another $25 down the road. I finally got an actual copy of the CD, Above the Ashes. I preferred the vinyl, but I'm happy with actually owning the real CD now. Thanks, King. He does this like bidding. You have to pick a number between 1 and 100, and whatever number he picks, whoever's closest to the number wins the auction type thing. Yep. I was happy to pay the man for an actual copy of the CD. So again, anybody needs one of this, it's in the get the hell out of here pile. I paid $25 for stupidity, but actually I've spent $50 and I still don't have the medium of choice on here, but I'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. We're getting closer anyway.
That CDR type of thing you're on about there, Marty, I ended up with one of them with Mortal Sin, Face of Despair.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
The blue and black thing?
Very, very similar. It wasn't blue and black, but it was very similar. It was like one of these record label ranges where the back cover was a load of other albums. Instead of a track list or something, it was a load of other albums in the range that you could pick from, you know, with like 20 other selections on it. I quickly punted that.
Here's the inside too. This is very little to do with Ulysses Siren. What an absolute waste. So stupid. But it showed on Discogs as an actual release. I felt bamboozled. Still do. Pissed off about it. Anyway.
That stinks.
Right. Well, I'll show this album, which is an album now I absolutely love. It's it really grew on me fast, to be honest. But when it arrived at the time, back in the back end of the summer of '89, like I was talking about earlier, all those sort of harder thrash albums that weren't being marketed as thrash that you now know, you know, slowly we're up to death metal. And well, I mean, I don't consider Beneath the Remains death metal, but it was the harder hitting stuff, Altars of Madness and stuff like that. And at the end of that summer, Testament dropped Practice What You Preach. Now, I was a huge Testament fan, got into them on the New Order. So I was waiting in huge anticipation for this. And after having a summer of you know, the sort of the extremes getting dialed up a little bit on what I had heard up till that point, for that to sort of come out at the end of the summer, I just thought, what the fuck is this shit? It was like the summer holidays from school. I was able to get down to the record shop first thing and pick it up, get back home and stuff, and drop the needle on it. And I was just like, well, that's weak. And for the first few listens, nothing stood out as being memorable or anything. I remember just being absolutely gutted by it. But as like we've said before, you've done your money that week or that month, and you've got to live with it and suck it up. And eventually, I come around on that, and by the end of the year, which was 2 or 3 months later, I absolutely loved it, and it's been kind of a regular listen for the last 30 odd years, and I still think it's fantastic now.
Oh yeah, I agree. There was a bit of a change, a lot more commercial, but I still like that record.
Yeah.
All right, Alan.
All right, yeah. Here's one that happened a long time ago as a case of buyer's remorse. When I started, collecting more new wave of British heavy metal vinyl, yeah, again, this was all early and mid 90s. There was really no way to hear this stuff unless you stumbled. What you basically had to do was buy the compilation albums, pick out the tracks that you liked a lot, and then try to find out if the band had made a record or a single, and then go try to track those down. There really wasn't much other way to preview this stuff. Somewhere along the line, I found out about a band named Incubus that had made an album called To the Devil a Daughter. I don't remember them actually appearing on any compilation, so I'm not really sure how I heard about it. I may have just seen it on a sale list, and the name popped at me because the band is called Incubus, kind of evil and spooky. The album title's cool, To the Devil a Daughter. So it was on the Guardian Records label, which is one known for a lot of very quality and pretty collectible new wave of British heavy metal titles. So it's like check. This sounds really cool so far. At some point, I think I'd seen a picture of the cover, which looks like this. You've got cloaked figures standing around a big pentagram on the floor, and some kind of demon lady being possessed or summoned into all the smoke and cloudy stuff, and the big devil face in the background. Just
Saruman or Sauron.
It's just like, shit, this has to be awesome. This checks every single box. This is going to be great. This is going to be like, Venom or something. It's going to be, evil and cult and just, absolutely killer. And so again, I kind of saved up, next time I saw it on a, private sale list. There was no eBay back then. You got private sale lists from vinyl dealers. Yeah, somebody had this. I honestly don't remember what I paid for it. It probably was between 20 and 40 bucks. I wouldn't have paid more than 40 for it at the time. I couldn't have afforded to. So somewhere between $20 and $40 later, the guy sends me the record. I take it out. I'm looking at it and just like, this is going to be just, best record ever. Put it on. It was not the best record ever. It's not a bad album at all. But everything you're seeing here in terms of, the visual presentation and, the band name and the album title is very misleading. If you want a really good reference for what this album sounds like, it sounds a lot like Dark Heart's Shadows of the Night album. It's, kind of ringing twin guitar leads, but, the vocals owe a bit more to maybe 70s hard rock. If for Dark Heart's not the best known band, think along the lines maybe like early Praying Mantis a little bit. Yeah, that kind of new wave of British heavy metal. Very, pretty clean, very safe, nothing. There's nothing edgy about the music once it gets going. And I was just like, what the hell? Oh, come on. This basically, folks, to put it in modern terms, this was clickbait of the 1980s. You put that name and that cover and that title together, and then you have an album that sounds like, kind of, somewhat slightly hard rock music from 1979. Come on, you're fucking with us. So, yeah, I ended up trading it to another dealer, and I got something else for it, that was decent. I don't remember exactly what, but so I got out of the record, because even then, it was a semi-desirable piece. It still is today. I will say, years later, I went back, and it may have been King Fowley, since we mentioned him earlier, that you sent me a copy like on a cassette tape trade or something. And it's like, actually that's not bad. It's not a bad record. The problem in this case very much was I was expecting it to sound like, Welcome to Hell, black metal, because it's advertising itself like that. And it didn't, so my expectations were over here. They were way over there. And as such, it was just an immediate, I can't believe I spent money on this piece of crap. It's not really that bad an album, though.
What year did that come out, Alan?
I want to say 80. It may be 84. It may have been a little late for new wave of British heavy metal, but I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. This is called 83 plus or minus a year. And so, the bottom line was, it's actually a pretty good album. And had I kept it, eventually probably would have, grown to like it. But, so this was a case where I regretted buying the record at the time. And now I regret having sold the record because I never have picked it back up anywhere. But sometimes you have that buyer's remorse because you build an album up to sound like one thing in your head. Okay, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, released in 84, recorded in 83. Thanks, Aaron. You build something up in your head that it's going to sound like one thing, and then you get it and it sounds like something else, and that can definitely make you feel like you've wasted your time and your money on it. And this is a textbook example of that from my personal history.
All right. This is another one of those, why did I buy this? I don't know if I've listened to this whole thing, to be honest. And if I remember right, it's a little tough to listen to because of the demo stuff. I don't know. Vertigo Records. We go there several times a year. Great place. They didn't have a lot of stuff in there that I wanted. And of course, if you're a collector scum, you end up feeling like you need to spend something. You just drove 2 hours to see a store. Well, I was walking out and this was sitting in the rack. Treblinka Shrine of the Pentagram. It's a box set put out by Century Media. It's 3-disc set. It's got a nice book, nice presentation. One of these deals. Treblinka is a band that was pre-Tiamat. Mm-hmm. Another band that I like but don't listen too much. I'm like, oh, this will be cool. Nice underground stuff. I can get caught up. I've heard some of this stuff, not all this stuff. It's got demos, rehearsals, live sets. So demos, rehearsals, live sets. Man, why did I buy this? Why did I buy this? It's a moment in time. It's a piece of Swedish death metal history. I just found out that this band just some cool stuff, but man, I just don't. Oh yeah, and don't forget the Sumerian Cry instrumental studio outtakes. God, why does that need to be heard? Who cares? Who cares except maybe Treblinka's moms? I don't know. Who gives a crap? Well, I went home with it thinking I was cool and cult and awesome, buying a Century Media box set, and yeah, I don't get it. Never seen anybody show it. I just don't see why this was needed, and I bought it. I'm so fucking stupid. Anyway, Mike, how about you? What do you got?
Well, I got this little box set a few years ago for a tenner, and he was a guy I ignored growing up because he was just an old man, and I was like, oh fuck!
Hey, watch it.
I want to listen. I want to listen to the. I want to listen to the the new stuff. But I picked up that Dio box set for about a tenner a few years ago, and it's got the first 6 Dio albums in up to Strange Highways. Is it? Can't see even with these on. I don't think I'll see that. Yeah, Strange Highways, and. I as soon as I sort of took to Dio, which was like I was woefully late to the party with Dio. Like I say, I mean, for me, I just found it strange that why would a teenage boy want to listen to a guy that was probably late 40s at the time? It just didn't make sense when Testament and Anthrax were popular at the time. So I just ignored him, and it was only through watching the film The Pick of Destiny, as late as that I ended up sort of warming to the idea of trying Dio out. And I took to that like a duck to water with Holy Diver and Last
great
in
record.
Line. I think Last in Line's good as well. And then it starts to dip. And to me, I don't regret buying this box, because when you look online now, it's about £70, which is just bizarre. In spite of Wendy Dio's best efforts to try and depreciate the value by reissuing every fucking thing he ever did time and time again. So I can never lose out on that. But I thought I'd made this discovery with Dio. I'm thinking, oh God, he's fantastic. I got taken up in the whole thing of the first couple of albums. And then the quality starts to dip. And then the second half of his career just sort of rehashes lyrics and shit from the first half. It's just, I just hear a lot of similarities. The music's darker and different, fair enough. But I didn't find any of this sort of latter half of his career remotely interesting. And I don't know, although it was an intense period for me and loving Dio and all the rest of it, and I still acknowledge, don't get me wrong, I still acknowledge that those early albums are great. That kind of just sits on the shelf, and I'm like, well, yeah, okay. It's nice that it's worth a few quid now, but it's kind of served its purpose. And if for some bizarre reason the price went up even higher on that, you know, I think I would probably look for some cheap alternatives of the first couple of records, you know.
Have you heard Sabbath, the albums that he sang on with Sabbath or Rainbow?
Yeah, I have the Rainbow stuff. Yeah, I enjoy it. I think Rainbow Rising is the best one of them. Light in the Black is a great song and stuff. I do have Dehumanizer because I quite enjoy that, but I can't get on with Heaven and Hell, and because for me Sabbath is all about the Iommi riffs. Even the Ozzy years and that I didn't care. I like Ozzy as a solo artist, but I didn't find it too. I was obsessed with Black Sabbath back in the early 90s when I started to learn how to play guitar, and I just consumed everything, trying to learn all them fucking awesome riffs. Once I'd done that, I found that there wasn't really any more meat on the bone for me. I was like, well, I know all the riffs now, they're great, but I've played them to death with trying to learn them, and I just don't think there's Neon Night. Everyone says that. It's like, it's not even, to me, that them albums don't sound remotely like Sabbath. They don't have any of the elements of Sabbath that I gravitated towards for the first 6, I would say. I didn't even bother with 7 and 8 because I'd heard so much negativity about them. So I stopped after Sabotage. But just kind of don't do it for me, Dio Sabbath. And that Heaven and Hell album that he came back in just before he died, that's got that one song on that I like, that Bible Black. That's a great song. But after that, I was like, yeah, done with that as well. That has got no sort of jump out moments to me. I find Dio a little bit overrated. I won't say hugely overrated. And he's done a massive body of work and stuff, but I find him a little bit overrated.
Let me just ask you this question, Mike. Does your Dio box set have instrumental studio outtakes?
Not a bit. Not a bit.
Well, that box set is bollocks, then, isn't it? Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Someone's on about Dream Evil there. Has that got All the Fools Sailed Away? That's a fucking awesome song. Mm-hmm. I know there's some gold in there as well. But when I kind of rubbish an album, I mean it as a full body of work from start to finish, not just All the Fools Sailed Away is great, so that's got to be a great album. That is how it works for me.
Yeah. All right. Ellen.
All right. One other category for buyer's remorse. We talked earlier, like sometimes you buy too much stuff at once and can't process it. Kind of similar to that is when you rapidly start buying the band's entire discography. You find one album, you like it, and on the next thing you know, you own like 6 of them. And it's like, I haven't even really finished listening to the first one. Why did I run out and buy all these others? I did this last week. Sometimes we don't learn. Sometime, I guess it may have been last year, Marty, Kellen, Marty, and I think I was in on this episode. Reviewed this album on one of the Wednesday Album Club shows. It was, Septic Flesh's Ophidian Wheel. I think Kellen had picked this one.
Not the original cover, by the way.
No, this is not the original cover at all. But it was a really interesting listen. Kind of liked what the album was all about. And so, sometime, I had Amazon points. Got this, basically for free at that point. And so, it's a pretty cool album. Enjoy it. And so I was like, I might pick up some more other stuff sometime. Well, recently poking around on a distro site, they had some stuff on sale. So I was like, okay, I'll get another Septic Flesh album. Oh, look, they have this one on sale too. Oh, look, they have this one on sale too. Well, hell, let's just put them all in the cart and buy them, because it's always a good idea to buy 3 albums by the same band when you've only heard one album from the band before. There's that little voice in the back of my head telling me, why am I doing this? It's going to, Septic Flesh is going to take a while to digest each of these, unless I'm just going to play them once or twice and put them on the shelf and thus not really have any real feel for the albums. Did I need to buy all 3 at once? No, I really didn't. Why did I do it? Well, because they were on sale and I was putting in an order anyway. So the shipping's already paid for. It feels kind of dumb not to get them. I'm interested in hearing some more of the band stuff. I did check a little bit. These were from, let's see, 2 of these are from early in the catalog, which is what people have told me is kind of the best stuff. This one's several albums later, but still, I found some good reviews for it online. It seemed to be one of the better albums after they started changing styles, maybe. I never, again, the Album Club one was roughly a year ago. I don't know the exact date. None of the local stores ever have any of their stuff. It's not a band or an album I'm wanting bad enough that I'm really going to start punching Septic Flesh into eBay or Discogs to look for them. But, I'm browsing a distro. There's already a couple of things in the cart that I definitely want to pick up. I can just go ahead and add these, and then I'll have them. But now it's going to, it's like I'm looking at them. It's like, shit, I should have just bought one, left the other 2. And if I liked the second one, then ordered the third one. And if I like that one, then order another one. I'll pay more attention to each album that way and can kind of slowly work through the discography. But and I think a lot of metal fans have a tendency to do this. We hear something we like, and the next thing you know, you're buying a bunch of it, probably prematurely, before you really know, are you going to like it enough that you're going to want to have this much of it on the shelf? I have played one of those 3 Septic Flesh albums so far. The first one, I don't even know the names of them because there's 3 of them and I keep getting them confused. But it's this one, Mystic Places of Dawn. It's pretty good. I'm glad I bought this. I've enjoyed it so far. It's also got the original EP as bonus tracks. I haven't even played that part of the disc yet, though. And so I still got to get used to this album more, play the EP that's on here as bonus tracks, and then I still have 2 more albums by the band to digest. And, I still want to go back and play this one some more, too. So already I've kind of created this little, kind of, quicksand tar pit trap for myself, just trying to get used to Septic Flesh because I bought all the albums at once when I should have spaced it out more. Am I mad that I, got these for $7-8 a piece because they were on sale in the distro? No, I'm just kind of mad at myself for buying too much stuff too quickly. That's the remorse part.
That's the
on
shit
this
I
one.
do. I do it. If I like something, I'm like, fuck it. I'm buying the stuff. I'm buying it.
I'll do it too. And this was one of the things that some other people that have done these kind of collecting issues videos was talking about. And I'm sorry, I don't remember who did one of the first videos on it because it's not a channel I watch very much. But kind of the premise in his video was that he refused to go check out the band. I think it was Genesis was the band he was talking about. Apologies if my details are wrong. But when people ask me like, dude, why don't you check out Genesis? It's the kind of thing you'd probably like. He's like, I don't want to check out any Genesis because I probably will like it. And as soon as I realize I like it, I'm going to have to go out and buy like their entire discography. And that's going to take years to fully digest. That's, you're trying to get through the Lamb Laid Down on Broadway and stuff. That can be some heavy shit to process. He's like, I don't have time. I don't have time to dedicate years to exploring the Genesis catalog. So I'm just not even going to touch that rabbit hole. We're going to board it up and nail it shut and pretend it's not there, even though I would probably enjoy it because he knows that, if he gets one and likes it, he's going to, buy the entire frickin' stack and then be stuck wading through it for a long time. Like I'm going to be wading through some septic flesh for a while. Wow, when you phrase it that way, it sounds really gross. That just happened. So, Marty, while I try to wade out of the septic flesh, we'll pass this over to you. And just as a heads up, guys, this I've got one or two more kind of remorse ones. We'd also talked though about turning this frown upside down. And
my frown upside down is coming here pretty quick.
Okay, I'm kind of getting to that point in my stack too. So hang in there, viewers. Don't be all depressed or gloomy yet. We are going to kind of invert this conversation and also talk about some good buying experiences in just a little bit also. Okay,
Aaron's trying to throw down these raw one-man bedroom black metal things. This is Iraq Ball Thargoth guy. He's got like 50,000 releases. How can they be good? How can they be good? They're probably not. Anyway, this is the last I'm talking about succumbing to VC hype. Which is funny because we're part of the VC. We, try to turn people on to things that we like. I get it. It happens. We do it. And, people buy shit that we've promoted and they're like, I don't like this. What are those guys talking about? This, I knew better. Nocturnus, I like the key. I like it. Do I love it? I would have loved it if they had a different singer. Thresholds, it's okay. But yeah, Paradox came out. Everybody and their brother were holding this up. How this is so great. Return another Profound Lore. Sorry, Chris, I'm not slamming on your label tonight. Just and I get why people like this, but I'm just not a Mike Browning fan. I didn't like him in Morbid Angel. I know that's sacrilege to some people. He's playing drums and singing, and he has a real hard time separating his vocal presentation to over the guitar riffs and what he's playing on the drums. So his vocal lines are very rudimentary. They're very boring. They're very predictable. The cover art's awesome. I mean, there's some good stuff on this record. I haven't spun it since it came out. I just don't care. I listened to it twice and went, man, yeah, it sounds like older Nocturnus. And because of that, Nocturnus, the key was pretty groundbreaking, the way they use those horror phonically charged synth tones and the way the keyboards were layered over that style of death metal and some cool riffs and stuff. And I like the tone of Mike's voice. I just don't like what he does with it. And it's the same here. Same kind of motif artistically. You got the cyborg dude, a robot guy with the key thing unlocking something here. I don't know, man. This record is pretty overrated. Maybe I'll come back to it someday and have a better appreciation for it, but I was pretty disappointed that I bought this on record. I should have just bought the CD and been done with it. So that's my last truly regret we got going here. Anyway, Mike, you're up.
Yeah, well, this is probably my last one as well. don't know if you're familiar with the band Graveyard, the Swedish sort of throwback 70s type band. And I got into them on the Hyssogen Blues album, and just, you know, like you were saying, wanted to buy up the whole catalog. And the first album was, at the time, everything I'd got was the digipack version, and some had a little patch in there and a badge and whatever. All these pointless things that I'm never going to use. You know, you pull them out once and you say, "Oh yeah, I've got a patch in mine," and put it back, and it never sees the light of day. But everything was on a digipack, and to complete the collection, I wanted the first album, and I couldn't fucking find it anywhere. It had been reissued with completely different artwork on a jewel case, and that was not sitting well with me. I hadn't heard the album, like you were saying earlier, Marty. I wanted that whole, you know, it wasn't going to be obviously an entirely a blind buy because I had everything else, but I hadn't heard the album at all. And I finally paid way more than I should. Now, it wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a massive amount of money. It was about $20. I got an original press on, I think it's called TP Records or something like that, on, you know, digipack, whatever. And yes, I was dead excited and stuff. And before I even listened to it, I put it on the shelf and grouped them all together and thought, yes, all's well in the world.
Aesthetically pleasing, yes.
Yeah. And I put the album on. I put it on once and I thought, oh, this is obviously an earlier version of what they were managing, and it's not of any interest at all. The artwork's quite cool. It would look even better, I suppose, on vinyl, but it just didn't do anything for me. And I've never actually bothered to play that album ever again. And that's a good 6 or 7 years since I bought that. So I probably need to spin that again tomorrow. But yeah, just out of that whole, you know, let's complete the catalogue, as if there's going to be some fucking imaginary overlord come into my bedroom and go, oh, I see you bought the Graveyard albums. Where the fuck's the first one, you wanker?
If you were a real metalhead, you'd have the first Graveyard.
Or if you bought them all, it
even though
would
they're not
unlock
a metal
better
band,
album. Yeah.
so much. They may or not be a metal band, but you still need it.
It just so doesn't matter if you've got them all or you're missing some, does it? But yeah, I hate how that I'm bound by that mentality sometimes.
Yep. It's part of the collector gene for sure. All right, Alan.
All right. So yeah, my last one where there's and again, this isn't a remorse, but it's a spent a lot of money and probably didn't necessarily need to kind of thing. You know, you think heavy metal bands. You ever notice how a lot of the really great heavy metal bands have, like, you know, 2-word names? Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Running Wild,
Dirty Looks.
We're going
Shy.
to
Oh wait, no.
Merciful Fate. Well, the band we're going to talk about follows that pattern a bit. Loosely Tight.
What the fuck?
It's right stamped right there on the front of the tank. Hey, now there's a tank on the cover.
So it can't be bad. It's got a tank.
Yeah,
You
it
can't
be
spell
bad.
that.
It's got a tank, but at the same time, they named themselves Loosely Tight,
Which is the stupidest thing in the whole world.
Not one of the better names. It's like I'm never sure which word I'm supposed to emphasize as the middle part. Is it like, you know, I'm loosely tight, or is it like I'm loosely tight? I've never figured out how I'm supposed to, like, how when these guys were coming on stage, how do you announce them? Which way do you announce them? You can't emphasize both words. Loosely tight sounds dumb, but you got to put the accent on something to, you know, try to get
Probably an invisible question mark at the end.
It's like, coming up next, loosely tight. There's probably a reason they didn't go very far, and I think we've already touched on what the problem might have been.
Aaron wants to know if that's an original.
It is, Aaron. Yes, it is.
Of course it is.
And it is a sealed original too.
Because no one gives a fuck about loosely tight. Sealed for
now,
pleasure.
Now here's the thing. Musically, this smokes in the good sense. This sounds a lot like some comparisons would be like early 80s Thin Lizzy, early Fire Down Under era Riot, Thunder and Lightning era Thin Lizzy. There's some this is a pretty strong album. Each track is kind of unique. It's got its own sound. They've got a good vocalist. They got some good guitars. It is a really, really good early 80s. I want to say it came out around 83. Nope, 81. Sorry, early. It's really, really good. Excellent album. When I heard it, this was one of those things that went on the want list and started looking for it. There's some problems though. This is, yes, yeah, it doesn't necessarily look that bad. It's got a tank on the cover. It can't be that bad.
How many guys are in the band?
Let's see. We have. Well, it doesn't say on the back, and I can't open it because it's sealed.
I gotta say that if there's 3 dudes in that band, the fact that the name Loosely Tight, out of all the names, what names did they say can fuck off? And why did Loosely Tight pass the veto?
I have no idea.
Round.
I do know that there was a phase, of early 80s and especially American bands. There was a phase where a lot of bands wanted to do this naming convention of, again, like 2-word names that were sort of oxymoronic. I've heard band members state this in interviews before, like with David DeFay from Virgin Steel. They wanted Virgin Steel because the two don't really quite, want Virgin, soft and perfect and all this. And Steel is hard. Savage Grace, kind of the same way. Savage makes you think, rip and shred and go crazy. Grace is kind of the opposite of that. I'm guessing these guys kind of followed that same pattern because Loosely and Tight don't really quite work together. A lot of other bands did the same kind of pattern. And it's not just a weird thing I've noticed. I've read interviews with a few of those guys and they're like, yep, we wanted a name like Virgin Steel because we thought it was cool that the words didn't make sense together. So we picked the name Savage Grace, or we picked the name. There was one that had leather, there's one that had lace in the name of it too. It was Ragged Lace. Was a Cleveland area band, I think, and they did the same thing. I'm going to guess Loosely Tight also fell in that pattern. Anyway, we're way off. We're way in the weeds. Problems with this. When you really like the Loosely Tight album and you want an original one, first, they're hard to find. Second, they're expensive. And third, they're almost always kind of beat up. This is one of those covers that tends to show ring wear really badly. Most copies I've seen, there's that big, worn ring right there across, and it's a dark blue cover, so it shows up like a motherfucker. And so your ring wear is not the end of the world, but when it's really visible across a big part of the cover, that is one that bugs me a bit. Some condition issues I'm okay with. A big noticeable ring wear on the cover, it starts to irk me. So I couldn't find a copy, or when I did, it's like, here's a copy. It's $150. And there's this giant ring on the cover. No, I ain't doing that. Eventually, was talking to, a dealer. He's like, I've actually just got a copy of that. I'm like, what conditions it's in? He's like, it's mint sealed. I'm like, ooh, well, part of my body just got Loosely Tight. Tell me more. We worked. Nice guy. I've bought several things from him over the years. Usually, price. We could negotiate, work things out pretty well. He was really stuck on a price for this. He's like, I've got to have this much for it. I'm just like, you're killing me, man. He's like, look, you and I both know the deal. It's rare. It's actually pretty collectible. The music's good, and this is mint. When is the last time you saw a mint copy? Never. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm going to take it. And it's a fantastic album, but I paid a lot for it. And so there's not buyer's remorse in the fact that I overpaid or anything like that. The buyer's remorse is like, it is a lot of money to put into a record. And especially, I mean, this is where you can also start talking reissues. I got this for $10. It's the same album. It's actually got one extra track on it that was from like a compilation or something they did.
Does it have Galactus on there?
It does not have it does not have Galactus, but in a strange twist of fate, they cover Wizard Force.
Fuck yeah. And then they also have a CD of instrumental studio outtakes. That's amazing.
And Marty, you wanted a glimpse of the guys that would settle on Loosely Tight. So there's a kind of fuzzy photoshopped rendition of
it's like a Sasquatch photo.
The guys that would go with this. Maybe that's the bass player. Maybe it's the guy in a bass player outfit. We don't know. But did I need to spend a whole lot of money on that original album when this was available for $10? I got these at about the same time. I may have actually had the CD first because it took me a while to find the original album. I don't know. There's certainly nothing wrong with just getting a cheaper reissue if the sound quality is still the good. If some people, if they've really messed with the sound, that's one thing. If they've dumped a bunch of extra half-baked demos or something on, that can be annoying. $10 for this versus a hell of a lot more than $10 for this. Was this a necessary purchase? I don't regret it. I'm glad again, I love the album a lot. I'm glad to have it on the shelf, but this is also on the shelf. When I want to hear the album, this is what I play. I've never cracked this one open because as much as I paid for it, if I open it, it's stupid, but it does knock the value of that down if I ever wanted to go sell it. And why do I need to open it when I can hear it in other ways? So that's my last one. That
it could be worse, Alan. It could be worse. You could have had to go into the record shop and buy that in person. I'd need a fucking disguise to go and buy that.
Yeah, you go in and the really cute ladies working behind the counter that day is like, "Excuse me, miss, do you have Loosely Tight?" Yep.
Yeah,
that could be awkward.
So stupid.
But the whole keeping records sealed as well. I seen a video where Scott Waters was talking about sealed records that he'd had for a long time or something, and he'd opened one, and the plastic sort of welds itself to the cover, and you can pull the whole cover off. It just the shrinks over the years.
Chemically adheres to the cover sometimes.
In some cases it can, and in some cases, if it was wrapped badly, it will also start to bend or warp the cover.
It'll warp the record. It'll warp the record too.
Yeah, I don't have very many records I keep sealed. And the ones I do, I keep an eye on those things actually to see if it ever looks like it's starting to twist the cover or anything. And if they do, I'll open it and relieve the pressure on it, of course.
It must be loosely tight then, is it?
You have to get that shrink just the right amount of loose, but also a little bit tight.
That's right. Oh my God.
So, and some folks in the chat are making kind of seeing the same thing. Do we need these things on multiple formats all the time? Even take the price tag out of that. Do I need a vinyl copy and a CD copy of the exact same thing? Well, I've got them, but did I need them? Not necessarily. So that's another angle is how many multiple copies do you need if there's not really a difference?
Well, that's one of the excuses I've seen on the VC for years. I find it quite funny to watch when people they've got a CD or a cassette copy of an album, they buy it on vinyl and they show it, and they've paid a decent amount of money for it, and it's a bit beat up, and they go, "Well, it's beat up, but you don't play the record sleeve, do you? It's about the music on there, so I'm not too fussed." You think, mate, you already had the fucking music on there. You had the CD. So it's got to be about the sleeve. Otherwise, you wouldn't have bought the fucking record.
Yeah.
I know it's about the... I wouldn't dream of making that statement. It's just about the music. Is it? Fuck. It's about the full package. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be doing this.
It's the piece. It becomes a piece of my collection, which is fine. It's great. But
yep. Just to answer a couple of questions that folks had about that. Yes, Loosely Tight. They were an American band. They're from, I believe, Arizona. They were Southwest. If it wasn't Arizona, it might have been New Mexico. But I think that covered a couple of things that came up while I was chatting about it.
Oh, a lot of people are having fun with the name in the chat. I was close.
And they absolutely should. It's a goofy name. But in all honesty, if you like Fire Down Under, if you like Thunder and Lightning, era Thin Lizzy, go throw it on YouTube and check it out. It's a really good album. It speaks to that era of very early 80s, pre-thrash, pre-glam. It's great. Love it. Love the album.
All right. Here we're getting to the only regret I have on this is the amount I spent on it. And really, the way vinyl prices have gone, what I paid for it wasn't that much. I mean, I paid $40 for this thing. I love Manila Road. And I saw this pop up. Manila Road live at Up the Hammers 2018. It was cool. It came with it's got the Roadster up here, and this was, I think, put out after Mark passed, but it's got the quadrilogy, Mask of the Red Death, Death by the Hammer, Hammer of the Witches, Witches Brew, and on side B, Defender, Metal, and Crystal Logic. Okay, I just spilt my fucking. Anyway, it came with a patch, and I had to get it from Europe, so that's why I paid too much for it. But I have been trying to complete my my Manila Road collection. The only one I don't own on vinyl now is Spiral Architect, or Circus Maximus, and I'm not buying that on vinyl. I have the CD, and it's not very good. But love Manila Road, and I paid a little too much for this record, maybe, but it's cool to have. It's a cool piece to have in my collection. It's fine. Manila Road rules. I gotta go get something to mop up my mess. I'll be right back.
No problem.
Mike.
Right. On a positive, something I bought. This is a multiple copy situation as well. But for me, I get something out of owning both copies. So I have that, and the sound is quite a bit better as a reissue. It's quite a bit better than the original press, to be quite honest. But we all know and loathe the symmetrical, Cannibal Corpse logo. The colors are off and everything. So the only thing it's got going for it is the actual sound, because it sounds as good as this album's ever going to sound, But then one of the guys in the VC sold me that original press for £30. Not that long ago, really, either. So I'm not going back, and now vinyl prices have gone up. That was in the last year that I got that for £30, and he assured me over the chat, or you'll be delighted with the condition, and he wasn't wrong. It's fucking fantastic condition. So I kind of have both, because that is what your early Cannibal Corpse albums should look like to me. But you can't beat that for the sound. Unfortunately, that doesn't carry over to the Bleeding. With Cannibal Corpse, I'm kind of a Eaten Back to Life and Bleeding guy, and then I'm kind of out. I try, and they're okay. The Tomb of the Mutilated and Butchered, they're okay, but they sort of seem to, they lost a bit of what I enjoy out of Cannibal Corpse, those two albums, in favour of dialing up the brutality that bit more for me. It came back again a bit on the Bleeding, which is why I like that. But the Bleeding reissue on these sort of Metal Blade reissues, modern day things, they haven't done anything at all to the sound on that. So it's exactly the same sound as the old one. But having said that, I would still buy the old one if I got it at a good price. I mean, fucking hell, if I seen the old version for 30 quid, I'm buying that all day and twice on Sunday. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Oh yeah.
That was a fantastic buy. Even though, like Marty was saying earlier, it's more like a piece. Because if I want to listen to that album, quite honestly, I don't play the original. I just stick the other one on and enjoy it and sit and look at the old one, you know.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, so we're kind of turning the corner here. Sometimes we find great buys like that. Yeah, that's a great price for the, I'm not a big Cannibal Corpse guy at all, but even I would buy that for that price. Absolutely. And that's something else, just like we're all going to have these instances of buyer's remorse over time. Everyone's also going to occasionally make one of those, great finds. You're watching that thing on eBay and just nobody else bids on it and you get it really cheap, or you're looking through the used bin and find something really incredible. Or you make, you blind buy something just on a whim and it turns out to be absolutely awesome and becomes, one of your favorite albums or something. So this does work the other way too. I'll start with this. Actually, I'll start with the box set. We've done a lot of box sets. Here's a box set that worked out on the other side of things. I had never heard a note by this band, and I decided the best way to start was by buying the box set because reasons. It's the Sam Hain box set. It came out, when was this? Around 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. I liked a lot of Danzig stuff. I was familiar with Danzig's material, familiar with Misfits material, loved all of that. Had just never checked out any of the Sam Hain stuff before. Went to the local record store one day. I was actually going there to buy tickets to see AC/DC. They were coming to play. They were going to play in Raleigh, North Carolina. Me and some friends wanted to go. So a couple of us walked over to the record store after class that day, to get tickets. And, as we were checking out, I noticed they had this sitting on the shelf, kind of behind the counter. I was like, that's that. Yeah. They had gotten reviewed in Metal Maniacs and such. Like, oh, that's cool. Haven't seen that. It had already been out, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, a year or something. It was to the point where you couldn't go out and just get it off the shelf anymore. There were no new copies left around. So I was like, oh, they've got that. So when I got up and paid for my ticket, it's like, what's with the Sam Hain box set back there? Yeah, and the guy knew me because it's me and it's a record store. They tend to know me. He's like, oh yeah, someone just actually brought that in. It's going out, with the used stuff later. I'm just like, how much is it? He's like, let me check. We checked. He's like, we got $30 on it. It's like, huh. I think new they had been slightly more than that. They may have been something like $40 to $50 if he had bought it new. So I was like, huh. I was like, you know what? Just add it to the ticket and ring it up, please. I had never heard a note by him. And I also knew that it wasn't going to sound like Danzig and it wasn't going to sound like Misfits. People, I knew enough about the band to know it was its own entity with its own weird sound. But I kind of figured, you know what? I'm going to take a chance on it. I've been meaning to check that band out for a long time. I like a lot of Danzig material. Maybe I'll like this too. And yeah, it's a really, cool box set. Good set of albums in it. November Coming Fire's my favorite, but the earlier ones are pretty cool too. Not stuff I want to play all the time. It's not in my top 10 releases ever, but it's another one of these things too. These box sets go out of print. They don't get reprinted in almost all cases. And yeah, they get more expensive and hard to track down over time too. So was really happy I picked it up. I still have it today. The only little thing that's wrong with it, some of these apparently came with some kind of like little pendant that had like the Danzig big demon skull thing. This one does not have the pendant with it, but the pendant was like sort of a promotional thing. It wasn't supposed to be in every box. I don't know if maybe you bought it on the first day you got one. Maybe the record stores had some they handed out. I don't know the full story on the little pendant charm thing. Mine does not have it, but it's got all the CDs. It's got the comic book. It's got the VHS tape. So, and it's in really good shape. So yeah, it was kind of a blind buy, and not a cheap one. It's college student, $30. Could have done other things there, but worked out quite good. Was happy to get it, and it's held up really well. So there's my first example of took a chance, and the blind buy paid off.
When all the loosely type box sets are sold out. Anyway, what?
The Misfits done one in a coffin shape. Mm-hmm. And that was a good one as well. And that was a similar setup. That got a little pin and a leaflet in there sort of explaining the origin, I think, of all the songs and stuff like that.
Yeah, this one's laid out very similar to that, Mike. You're right. Yeah, I like that Misfits box set too.
All right. I am up. All right. Everybody get ready to drink. New Halloween record come out and was coming out. And leading up to it, they put out a single for Skyfall, upon which I had to, I don't want to show that yet, buy. And of course, they had to do it, not just different covers. See, one's a silver foil and the other one's like an embossed thing. Yeah, that's one thing. The covers, I can live without buying multiples of goofy covers. The track listing was different. So this one's got the Skyfall single edit with the Skyfall exclusive alternate vocals mix. This one has got Skyfall single edit with Indestructible is the B-side. So the bastards made me buy this twice right out the gate. I pre-ordered them. Of course, the Skyfall, the exclusive alternate vocals mix. Basically, all three singers take a turn at each. It's like every other line is a different singer. It's kind of annoying, but it's kind of cool, I guess, to have it. So I bought those. Okay. Then, bought the record when it came. Of course, had to have that. This has got disc 2 has got B-side is has Golden Times and Save My Hide, which were on the they were on the this version of the CD. It's a 2 CD set, so I had to buy this. It's a CD 1 is the album, and then CD 2 has got Golden Times and Save My Hide. Okay, cool. No problem. Oh, one night Marty's surfing around on eBay and finds out that the Japanese edition of the album has 2 more bonus tracks on it. So $60 later, I get this again. And it's got disc 2 has Golden Time, Save My Hide, Pumpkins United, which was a single they put out when they got back together, which is just has Pumpkins United on it. And another song called We Are Real, which has kind of a Ramones vibe to it. At the beginning of the song anyway. Kai sings on it. Not my favorite song of the bunch, but so I bought this record 3 times. So this is where Collector Scum is. It's a thing, but I mean, I love this band, so there's no way in hell I was going to miss out on any of these songs. I did not buy just the regular CD edition, which is just 1 CD and has no bonus tracks on it. But if you're going to buy this record, you need to get the bonus track, at least Golden Times, because that song is amazing. It's a Kiska song, singing on it. The chorus is so majestic, so good. So yeah, when the Halloween album dropped, I spent a lot of money between singles and CDs, and my kid liked it as well. So I bought a couple shirts from Nuclear Blast. So I'm in pretty deep to the whole Halloween. I bought somebody in the band some cigarettes and some booze and whatever else they buy. Leather pants, maybe a nice pair of leather pants, whatever. Oh, and today is Andy Darris's birthday. Happy birthday, Andy Darris. Anyway, you're up, Mike. And I got to say, Mike, when you bought that CD, I was like yelling at the TV. I'm like, oh my God. You're like, that just doesn't connect. Yep, you just need to spend more time with it.
It took me almost a year to the day to enjoy that album. I mean,
It's a grower.
I don't think I'll ever enjoy it as much as you seem to, but I
Yeah.
definitely like it. I bought I've got the gold vinyl variant.
Yeah,
Oh,
Marty,
nice.
what's your different vinyl variants?
I don't know which vinyl variant I have. I'm not going that crazy.
If-
I don't
if you
care
were a
about
real
covers
fan,
or
you'd have
vinyl
all of
variants,
them.
but when you start messing with tracks, yeah, I got to hear that.
Yeah,
Isn't there one that has like a
hasn't got an
laser
extra on it.
center version or something?
What?
There was some really weird vinyl pressing of that Halloween that had some
There's a
kind of
box. There's a box with like some sort of strange cover. I think
It's got a hologram when the record plays. A pumpkin spins and a hologram on the record.
yeah, that.
Yeah. And there's like a box set with a clock in it and all this stuff. I mean, nah. All right. No, Jason, I've never met Halloween. No, I saw them with my son several months ago. It was great. Anyway, you're up, Mike.
I don't buy a lot of new records, but I sort of ended up liking this one. I've still got the majority of the shrink left on this, and I've championed this because I feel like I don't have a great deal of new albums to champion a lot on my channel. But I've mentioned this a few times, so apologies for that. But I still haven't mentioned it as much as Matt has mentioned Halloween. So, yeah, Fulci's second album. I think they're an Italian band. Now, they've just got the 3 albums out, and I tried all of them. And to be quite honest, there was only this one done it for me. But you can only get them from the band in Italy off that Time to Kill records, and that, well, I don't know if it's off the band, but that's in Italy as well, I think.
Sorry,
and the shipping and everything is fucking horrible. This was about $55 for a brand new release of a band that aren't a big band, but this is one such album that is big on atmosphere, and I'm not a huge horror fan, and I'm trying to get into it because I think there might be interest in there, and it's a huge source of entertainment that it's untapped for me. So I'm trying to get into horror films and stuff. And the samples and things like that really add to this album. It's kind of like Cannibal Corpse's The Bleeding, really, with a drum machine. Drum machines normally piss me off a bit, but it doesn't on this. And I just absolutely love it. And although when I pulled the trigger on it at £55, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, get a grip of yourself. When it arrived and I played it and stuff, and I thought, no, I fucking love it. I've played the shit out of this album, and I think this is going to be an album in years to come. This is going to go down as it's a modern day classic that people are going to seek out. I think this will always be an album in demand. Can't say that for the other two, even though they follow the same sort of pattern. There's just something lacking on those other albums that's present on here, and I can't put my finger on it, because when I realized that those albums weren't to my tastes, I stopped trying to persevere with them, and I just thought, one album band so far. I mean, they're a new band, aren't they? But yeah, fantastic. I don't know if anyone in the chat, there's not a lot of crossover between this channel and my channel, really, is there? But I know
you'd be surprised. I don't know.
People are used to me showing it on my channel, but they might not have heard it on your channel, because I've not seen you show that, Marty, have you? Or Alan?
I used to have that CD. I got rid of it, but
we mentioned it real briefly quite a while back on an episode where we talked about horror movies crossing over with metal bands, because obviously with all the samples and stuff, they're a good example of that. But yeah, that's the only time I can remember it coming up on here. So yeah, that's a really good one.
All right, Alan, you're up. My internet's acting up again.
Okay. Everyone, of course, sort of, complains prices online it's harder and harder to find a good deal online. Let's be honest. Most folks on eBay price things exactly the same, and Discogs kind of, the same. And God help you if one copy happens to sell for a higher than normal price, because then everybody assumes that every other copy should sell for the exact same price. And it's like, that was a one-time fluke. That doesn't mean there's other people lined up to pay that same crazy price for your album. But everyone gets it stuck in their mind that they have to have the same price. So sometimes you got to go out in the wild and dig, and that can be frustrating because, let's face it, most of the time you go out looking, you're not going to find a lot of good stuff. But if you don't go out looking, you won't find anything. So sometimes you have to keep at it. Went to a record show this summer and found some pretty good stuff. Yeah, so this is very recent, and some folks have seen me show this when I got it. But went to a record show. It was about a 2.5 hour drive, so it took me a while to get there. I was running a little late. Got there after the show started. It walked in. It was very busy. And it's just like, okay, I'm here. There's a table here. I'll start here and just work my way around the room. So first table I walk up to, start flipping through his box. He had a box with like a Ghost record. So I'm like, okay, sure as hell ain't buying that, but maybe it's metal. So maybe there's some more metal stuff in here. And yeah, sure enough, we ended up had this. It's technically the second pressing because it's on the gray camo instead of the green combat label. But I mean, it's a 1985 pressing, possessed 7 churches. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And right behind it in the box, he had an original copy of this. So like, okay, that's interesting too. These, obviously great records like Leprosy. I have never owned a copy of 7 Churches before and had it, dubbed or burned or stuff before. I've owned the second album, the Gates one. So it's like, yeah, okay, this is the kind of stuff that typically these days it sells for a crazy amount. It's the kind of stuff I don't even look for online because I'm not going to pay those prices. I'm not going to even get close to it. Here's the price stickers of here's what he had them tagged at.
It's not crazy. That's fine.
It's like 30 for one and 35 for the other. And I gave him 50 for the pair. So like I didn't stop and look them up on Discogs. And again, I didn't have it in mind like, oh, I know exactly what these are selling for online or anything. I'm just like, those are good albums. Those are old pressings. They've got to be worth that much. And even if they aren't, I'm happy to pay that for them. So picked them up. Glad to have them on the shelf. But yeah, then I checked on Discogs out of curiosity. I'm like, oh yeah, those actually sell for a lot more than that these days. So very good buy at the record show. That kind of thing's not going to happen every time you go to a record store or record show, but you do have to get there and dig around. It was just one of these cases. The guy, like I said, he had a box with some metal stuff in it. Most of his stuff wasn't metal. He wasn't a metal dealer. Yeah, he was chatting with him. As soon as I was flipping through, he was friendly. He was right away like, hey, if you find some stuff you want, I'll make you a deal. He was obviously looking to sell. Like, okay, that's good to know. Chatted with him a little bit, make friends, and so when I offer him $50 for these, he's like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Everybody's happy.
I gotta say, some dealers like that, and like that, I mentioned Vertigo a lot. You go down there, and even his used stuff, the record store here in town, it's a beautiful store. You walk in, it's nice, it's clean. They don't have a metal section, which is annoying, but they price their records astronomical. But this place in Vertigo, he's been in the record business for so long, he wants to move records. He doesn't want to have an inventory full of all these artifacts that cost more than people want to buy, spend. There's the wall's got some really expensive shit, but he prices things to sell, and that's, if you're doing a record store, especially this, you're competing with the world, the internet. I mean, there's nothing that says that I can't walk out. I can look up on Discogs or eBay or distros and find the exact same record for way cheaper delivered to my house. You know, if I'm going to be there, you know, you see it, you buy it. That's kind of the collector mentality. If you see it, you buy it. If the price is what you want to spend. And if you got the price jacked up to Discogs or eBay pricing, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not going to work. And it's not a metal example, but a good example of that this morning. One of the local game stores was advertising this big sale, all their Pokemon and like, you know, Magic the Gathering stuff, 40% off. Well, tell me more. I'm that kind of nerd too. So, you know, went to the store this morning to check out, you know, what they had for sales. Like they had, you know, some sealed boxes of, you know, booster packs. And so like, okay, but they didn't have them actually priced. So it's like 40%, but 40% off of what? You know, so, and yeah, I knew with these, you know, online right now, you could buy a box of these sets for like the mid 80s, 80, 83, 85 bucks. You know, so yeah, I asked the guy, they're friendly in there. I play cards there once a week. Like, you know, how much, you know, is a box of this going to be with the sale discount? He's like, oh, let me check. $111. I'm just like, okay, thank you very much, but no. It's like, I didn't say it. I'm not going to be rude. I'm just like, dude, you and I both, I know, and you certainly should know, I can hop online right now and buy that from 57 different vendors. And I'm not making that number up. There are 57 different vendors right now online that have that same box of cards for between 80 and 90 bucks. I like you. I'm not going to pay you an extra $21 plus sales tax because I don't like you that much. What are you doing? And that's your sale price? What the hell were you? That plus 40%. You were basically asking $150 for the frickin' box before you put it on sale. That's no wonder you can't sell it. Even at almost 50% off, your price is too high. And you're not just competing with the other stores in town. You're competing with my phone. And my phone tells me 57 people will sell that to me $30 cheaper.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
All right, Marty. What's something else you got?
I've got
a good purchase, a blind buy that panned out or something.
I got 3 more and I'm done.
Cool.
When eBay first became a thing, it was great because it was during a time where no one gave a crap about vinyl. And you could get, I spent $50 for this, but it ended at that point like a 13-year hunt. I've shown this on here before, but this Halloween the lake and Halloween the candle of the lake. I heard this song. Always been a King Diamond fan. I remember my parents lived in the woods and I was flipping through my radio back in the day when, you know, we had a stereo that had a radio on. I was flipping through the radio and I could pick up if the atmosphere was just right. I think it was MLS out of Chicago and Z-Rock. It must have been a show they had on. And there was this King Diamond song playing, The Lake. I had never heard it before. And I had the tape of Fatal Portrait. Like, what is this song? I had no idea there was a single for it. That later I bought the Fatal Portrait CD when it came out and it had The Lake on it. So, but it sent me, I didn't even know what the name of the song was, but I had to, and finally I found this at a store in Grand Rapids. No, I got this off eBay. That's right. At about $50. But it ended a 13-year search, and I don't regret owning it. Do I listen to it all the time? No. I mean, I have all 3 of these songs on other things, but I mean, cool artwork, cool pictures, and awesome picture of King on here. This is one picture disc that I actually love.
Hey, it's a gorgeous one.
It's a very cool release for sure. Psyched I found it. And there was that whole time my next round is going to be all. I was a big Merciful Fate King Diamond fan, still am, but I thought I was going to go on this big collector thing until I realized that they're Merciful Fate and King Diamond. You want to go down that rabbit hole of collecting it, you better have deep pockets, and there is a lot. It's like Venom, but not as bad as Venom maybe or Iron Maiden, but a lot of bootlegs and stuff. But anyway, we'll get to that on my next round. Mike. We're almost there, mate. You're almost there. It's only 5. You can handle this.
I'll show this one, and then I haven't got any more pulled out to show.
Right on.
You know, And this was just a simple CD by a band who I hadn't heard. But somebody told me, if you like Manowar, check these guys out. So this wasn't a rare CD or expensive or anything like that. It was just a regular going into HMV type of deal. But Grand Magus or Magus, whatever you want to call them, sword songs. And I picked that up in 2016, I think it was. And yeah, I totally understand what they meant with the Man of War thing. They're not as sort of grandiose as Man of War, but it's, if you like Man of War, there's a good chance you would like them. And yeah, they've got quite a few albums out as well. The last one I heard was the latest one, and I didn't feel quite as happy with that one. But I haven't listened to it a great deal. But yeah, I mean, do you guys know Grand Magus or Magus very much?
I don't. Folks recommend that band, and I've never checked them out. I have heard people say that different albums from them can sound quite different from one another. So what you just said about some of the other albums not, striking you the same way, that kind of lines up with what other people have told me, that some albums maybe are more doomy and some albums are more epic, which also means I don't quite know where I'm supposed to start. So maybe I'll start with that album.
I would start with that one and sort of go either side. I got that and then went either side of it, and it was quite safe for 3 or 4 albums.
I've heard them and I liked it, but it's not something I'd probably listen to a lot. So I think I've had a couple promos over the years and thought they were cool, but yeah, they sit in a box in a promo sleeve, unfortunately. Alan.
Okay. One of my best finds ever. And I'll preface this with another thing. I have noticed, there are, again, some times when people start collecting, they'll put this kind of weird cap in their head where they're like, I'm going to start collecting 80s metal vinyl, but I'm never spending more than $50 for a record. That's, obviously maybe if there's a financial reason or whatever, sure, that's fine. If they're trying to do it on principle, something you do have to be a little realistic. Nobody wants to spend tons and tons on each record. We would all like to buy every record for $5 or $3 or $1. And as we're showing some examples right now, sometimes you're going to find those good buys. You're going to get the cool albums you want without having to pay very much for them. But you're not going to build up a collection if you're relying solely on that. You can't count on getting, my point is you cannot count on getting a ton of more expensive items at flea markets for $1 a piece or in the used bin for $5 a piece. It will happen from time to time.
It happens, but not
it does
very often.
Yes, it's going to happen. And those, you remember those moments. We're talking about them right now.
It keeps you addicted to hunting.
It does. It's like, yeah, okay, there is a point to going out and doing this. But there is a point where it's not going to work, but so often. And as such, if you're really going to, cap and say like, I'll never spend more than this, it's like, okay, that's fine. It's always your choice. You just have to be realistic that most of the albums that are priced up here, you are not going to own that. You just have to reconcile that. You can get reissues of them. Maybe you don't want those records. It's all absolutely fine. But you can't say, I'm going to hold out and get every single one of these top $1,000, misfits 7-inch singles, but I want to wait until I can find all of them at, garage sales for 50 cents a piece.
No.
You might find one of them one day for that. And if you do, that's awesome. But you can't build a collection waiting on these kind of moments to come up because they are very few and far between. One of my best ones ever was getting this album, Jaguar, New Wave of British Heavy Metal Band. And once again, there's a tank on the cover, so you already know this shit is gold.
It's loosely tight.
No, this one is just tight. A lot of folks love this album. It has its detractors. It's not a perfect album. There are some flaws and issues with it. I like it a lot. It's on neat records. It's not. It was never really a particularly rare or hard record to find back all the way through the 90s and even into the early 2000s. This would be like a $10, $20 kind of record. If $15 would be the kind of thing I'd expect to pay for it. Going through a collector book that was printed, it was just a little vanity press book in the late 90s. This record was listed as having a purple vinyl variant, that it came on black and purple. I was like, that's interesting. I've never heard of that on purple vinyl. I owned it at the time. I already owned a copy, black vinyl. Like, that's a great record. I like it, and I'm a sucker for colored vinyl. I will keep an eye out for a purple vinyl copy. Yeah, that took a while, and stumbled around in a weird way. Was at a record show in North Carolina. This would have been, give me a second, spring of 2000. So this is 23 years ago. I'm at a record show in Raleigh, North Carolina. A guy is set up there with a bunch of boxes of heavy metal vinyl, vintage 80s stuff. I'm flipping through the boxes. He's dealing with another customer. So I'm just browsing stuff. Yeah, and I was already in the habit. This is 2 or 3 years since I found out this came on purple vinyl. So anytime I found a copy of this at a show or in a store, I would always stop, pull it out, and check what color it was, and they were always black. So I'm flipping through this guy's box. He's got a copy of it. Like, okay, let's take a look at this. I kind of get he's still dealing with this other customer. I just kind of catch his eye. I'm just like, do you mind if I take this out and look at it? I always try to ask at record shows. Some dealers are real picky about letting people pull the record out. And he's like, oh yeah, no, go ahead. Right. Go. No problem. Like, thanks. And so, I start to pull it out. He's wrapped up with the other guy. The other guy's paid for his records and moved on. So the guy behind the table turns to me. He's like, oh, by the way, if you're checking the color on it, it's black. I'm like, oh yeah, I am checking the color on it. Well, okay, thanks for telling me. But I was already in the motion of pulling it out. And as you can see there,
purple.
It's not black. It's a purple copy. So I'm a little confused because he's just told me it's black, and I'm looking, I'm just like, well, that's not black. And then I hear, so I'm looking at the record, trying like, is the light hitting it wrong? And then I hear the guy say, oh shit. And so I look over at him and he's looking at the record. And it's one of those moments like in the movies where everything slows way down. This next exchange probably took less than 5 seconds. It felt like it took over a minute in my brain. Because I'm standing here with the record, half in and half out of the sleeve, like I was just holding it. We both now know what it is, and we both know it's mispriced. He had like $10 on I don't have the original price sticker on the sleeve, but yeah, he had like a $10 price tag on it. So I'm standing here looking at the record, looking at him. He's looking at me, looking at the record. I suppose the record is looking from me to him. It's like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The final climax, we're just all kind of staring at each other to see who moves first. My brain is rapidly going through what's going to happen here. I'm like, he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to say, that copy's in the wrong sleeve, that's the wrong price tag. Here's the real price. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's probably not going to be pretty. Or he's just going to yank it out of my hand, put it behind the table, and say, that's not for sale. These are both things, again, I've been around record shows literally since I was like 5 or 6 years old. A lot of record dealers are mercurial folks, and I'm putting it very diplomatically there. I have seen people do some real scummy, sleazy shit at record shows, mostly, and dealers and also buyers as well. But I'm just like, is he going to offer it to me for a jacked up price, or is he just going to flat out yank it and say not for sale? And so again, time starts moving again. And he just kind of sighs. He's like, well, congratulations, you just made the best buy at this entire record show. And he let me have it for the $10.
Holy crap!
And I'm just like, okay. I'm just, I bought some more records too, talked to him for a long time. I'm still in touch with him. I hear from him from time to time. We'll still joke about it. What had happened, he had a black vinyl copy as well. When he was throwing records in the boxes to pack up and head to the show, he grabbed the wrong copy. He had a purple one and a black one. He meant to put the black one in the box, and he didn't. He just never double checked it. And so the wrong copy ended up in the box, and he didn't check it when he was putting the price stickers on that morning either. It was the nicest thing I'd ever seen. Something I said like it before. I've seen a lot of scuzzy stuff done at record shows. This was the nicest thing I'd ever seen someone do at a record show. He took a hit on that record. I never had a great feel up to that point for how much the record was going to cost because I had never seen a copy of it. I knew by this point it was rare because I couldn't find it. In talking with him, he says like, yeah. And again, after the fact, we've been in contact over the years. He says like, yeah, you still have that purple vinyl? Jagrams. I was like, yeah, I still have it. He's just like, I should have had about $500 for that record. He's like, how much did you get it from me for again? Like 10. He's like, I can't be that mad at you. I did make $5 on that sale. So yes, that is one of my best record buys ever. I've seen it a few other purple copies crop up over the years. Some of them have gone for around $400-$500. Sometimes they do go a little bit cheaper. But yeah, it's these old neat pressings on colored vinyl. They did not make many of them. They're very scarce. But if you know which ones to look for and you're out in the wild, take the 30 seconds to pull it out and check the color, because you never know. You might just find one that got mislabeled.
Yeah, I bought that Trouble Psalm 9 album for $1.99 at the local record store. Got home and opened it up. It was a white vinyl, copy.
Yep, there you go. Mm-hmm. Sometimes folks don't know which color vinyl it is because they haven't checked.
Gore Metal, thank you so much again for your generosity. You're crazy, man. And it's
Thanks.
Great to have you. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Was that your last one, Alan?
I mean, I have a couple of others, but if Mike is done, we can certainly, it's after midnight here, so we can certainly start wrapping things up.
Right. I'll just crush through my last batch and be done. Okay.
Go ahead. Sure.
All right. I mentioned the Merciful Fate thing. This is the eBay times. All these I spent probably anywhere from 40 to $60 on. We got the 12-inch with Black Funeral, Black Masses. I probably spent too much on 2 songs, but I had to have Under One Flag pressing. Very cool. Live from the Depths of Hell. I bought this on cassette along with this one, Curse of the Pharaohs, which is basically demo tracks. And then of course a live set from I don't know, early. It's an early set because it's got it's got old songs on here, so it's an old set. And then of course The Nuns Have No Fun. Second pressing, right, Alan? Black Border's second pressing.
Second pressing, yep.
Which was incomplete. Thankfully, Alan had a spare lyric sheet for this, which is now a complete set. So, yep. Thankfully, the eBay collector scum, these were all stuff I couldn't live without. If you're going to get into Merciful Fate collecting, there's so many bootlegs and so much stuff and singles, and it's too much. And this, my wife was in hospital in Grand Rapids for a extended period of time, and Vertigo Records. I walked out of the store with this thing. Disrupt Discography. This is their entire collection, which I've always liked this band. They're kind of a crusty grind / hardcore band from Boston area. Members of this band went on to be in Grief. This came out on Relapse and Unrest Records. This is a very cool set, and I didn't really have the slipcase is like silk screened. Very cool. It's a 1, 2, 3 LP set, trifold type deal. Very cool. Oh, a double LP set. Booklet. It's a double LP set. I don't know. Side H. No, there's a lot of records in here. Basically has their entire catalog. It's just crusty, grindy, kind of hardcore. very indicative of what was happening on Relapse early on. I've always liked this band, really good. My only regret with this box set is I don't spin it enough because all their stuff is really, really quite good. Fun. I'm not gonna sit here and re-sleeve this right now, but that's my last one to show. I enjoy it. I didn't pay a lot for it, and it's a cool collection. Very cool. Relapse really pulled out all the stops on that one. Alan.
Nice. Oh yeah. Let's see. I can burn through just a couple of last things real quick. Back in college, on college radio one night, I heard a live Sabotage song. It's like, that's awesome. What's that from? And the DJ came on. I was like, it's from the upcoming Sabotage collection greatest hits thing that's called From the Dungeons to the Streets, which they had a promo copy to play at the radio. I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to buy that. There's only one problem. Atlantic scrapped the project and it was never released. And so this drove me insane for years. But poking around in a record store in Texas one day, Sabotage, From the Dungeons to the Streets, in their used bin for $8.80. These are only promo copies because, Atlantic decided they did not want to release it. It's, kind of a greatest hits thing. There's a few live tracks as well. Sabotage live stuff from the late 80s is absolutely killer. I don't think I've ever heard a bad Sabotage recording from that era. So, this, I don't know what these sell for now, but I was so happy to find that and get it for a good price. To find it in the wild was nuts. Last one. Is there one here? Yeah, last one. One of the big things I wanted forever was an original copy of Lightning to the Nations, the Diamond Head album. And there's multiple early versions of it. If you want the very, very, very first one, you have to get it where it has plain white labels, not the happy face labels, not the burning map of Europe on the cover pressed in Germany on Wolf Records long after the fact. It's just a plain white cover with plain white labels, and maybe some of the band members signed the cover. That's how they were pressed up and sent out and distributed. When Jim Cranford sold his collection, Cranford was one of the biggest metal collectors in the world up to about 2005 when he sold most of his collection. There were one or two people who had a bigger collection. I doubt you could name three people that had a bigger collection than Cranford at the time. Really nice guy, too. He had an original copy of Lightning for the Nations. It, came up on eBay. He was selling his collection through eBay about 10 records per week. And it took him years to go through it all. So wanted his copy of Lightning to the Nations. It had like a couple of promo flyers from back in the day with it, too, which was kind of cool. And it's like, I'm eating cat food for a week. I haven't washed my clothes in a month. I'm running through, the car wash when somebody else is, hosing down their Toyota to clean myself. Yeah, I'm refusing to run the air conditioner in South Carolina heat in the middle of the summer. I'm saving every frickin' penny I can to try to bid on this thing. The day it's going to close comes. I type in. I didn't log into eBay for some reason. I was in a hurry. I'm like, let me just type it in to the search bar and check on it that way, see how it's going. And it comes up and it's already like, over $300. I'm like, son of a, that's too much. And I can't pay that. And that's too much anyway. Cranford's records were all in great condition. Some of them were getting kind of a premium because they were coming from the Cranford collection. And that was a thing to collectors. So, have some of pieces from Jim's collection was kind of a deal. So people were willing to pay a little above retail, and broke my heart. Just like, son of a bitch. I'm out of the running, and it's, it doesn't even close for a few hours yet. But because I had just typed in the search thing, I got all the hits for Lightning to the Nations. And right below that one, like, there's another entry there. I'm like, that can't be right. That must be one of the other. Huh? I thought it was just like a glitch on the screen that it was double printing it or something. But I clicked the other one. Like, this is somebody else had another copy of the first press Lightning to the Nations that was ending on the same day as Cranford's copy a few hours later after the fact. And I'm just looking at the description like, that can't be right. That's so messed up. But, going through it all, it's quite, legit. I knew what, they had pictures up. I knew what to look for. And I'm like, well, shit, I can't bid on Cranford's copy. It's way, way, way out of my price range already. But this one hasn't got much attention. Maybe I'll bid on this one. I'll probably lose it too, because everybody who loses the first copy may just come bid on this one. They didn't. Cranford's copy went for like over $300. The second copy went for a fraction of that. That's this copy, which I still have to this day. And again, if you don't know what this is, there's nothing that's really indicates it. The labels are plain. This particular copy has one signature on it. Again, some of them had one, some had none, some had combinations of band members. So yeah, if you just find this flipping through a box of records in the wild and you don't know what it is, it looks like nothing. There's nothing to tell you what's going on with it. But it's an original press, Lightning to the Nations. With that, if this album doesn't exist, Metallica doesn't exist. Seriously, Lars went, and followed these guys around, on tour for weeks. And that was kind of what, gave him the motivation to get his ass in gear and get serious about a band when he got back to California. They were really nice to him, cool to him, let him hang out with them. And, he kind of got to, see what it was like on the road. Without that band and this album, Metallica doesn't exist. And heavy metal as we know it does not evolve the same way ever since then. Always wanted it. Lost the copy I wanted that day without ever getting to bid on it. And a few hours later, bought the same record from a different guy for a fraction of the price that it had sold just like 4 hours earlier. So that's my first pressing Lightning to the Nations. And that's a keeper. And that's the last one I'll show tonight.
Well, we made it through, Mike. I'm sorry we almost killed you in this endeavor. I appreciate you soldiering on through all of this. People, please go check out Metal Mickey. Links in the description. He has a fun channel, good stuff. Yeah, do we have anything to add before we?
I don't think so. Thanks to everybody in the chat. It's been a really active chat. Lots of good stories, both good and bad experiences with buying things. So I'm glad this struck a chord with folks, and everybody was willing to chime in and share their stories. Sometimes we get a little embarrassed about the bad experiences, but sometimes you got to talk those out as well.
And really, everybody, thank you. We have a great community here. I know all channels say that, but I don't know if a lot of channels really pay attention to their chat. We try to, and you all rule. There's a lot of cool, kind people in here. We have very few trolls, which is, I'm sure that'll change someday. But until it does, you all rule. And thank you for the super chats. It helps out a bunch. You all rule. That's it. We're going to cut Mike loose. Hang on a second, Mike. We're going to talk for 1 second.
Yeah.
Alan, are we good?
I think we're good. Thanks again, everybody. Next Friday, Darcy 6 Strings 9 Lives is lined up to be on the show.
Yep.
We'll have fun talking to Darcy. It's been a while since he's been on. And Marty will have other good content up, some reviews, Wednesday Album Club, all the good stuff. The heavy metallurgy train keeps right on a rolling.
We keep on grinding. I can't remember what Wednesday's Album Club is.
I do not know, because I watched the Devourment show, but I didn't catch the end of it, so I don't know what was chosen.
I can't remember. I don't know.
Good.
Hell Witch, new Hell Witch.
Okay, cool.
Yep, new Hell Witch we'll be talking about. But anyway, cheers, everyone. We will see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Keep on grinding. I like that. Maybe we use that for the time.